Okay. A pleasant afternoon and warm welcome to all the dignitaries, council members, and speakers and the participants to the day 7 of this wonderful initiative undertaken by Development of International Trade Services and WTO Directorate of ICAI for promoting and perceiving global opportunities for chartered accountants. I am CA Payal Jain from Belai, India, Chairperson 2023 of Belai branch and speaker for various professional subjects, and I am honored to moderate today's session with such a galaxy of dignitaries here. Today's topic is unmasking Australian opportunities. This land of kangaroos have been a highly developed continent and yet stores a lot of potential for we chartered accountants to explore for providing professional services as well as giving a kickstart to the journey of business. To take you through for unmasking the opportunities and understanding what the participants have to concentrate, we are delighted to have Central Council member of ICAI, a leader with high intellect and passionate for the fraternity, CA Abhay Chajirji, the convener of Development of International Trade and WTO Directorate, and the pillar to this entire program curated for the benefit of members named ICAI Global Week. A distinguished professional with over 2 decades of experience in audit and assurance, he has held several key positions at ICAI and he has represented ICAI at various international forums, contributing to discussions on IFRS and sustainability. In fact, he has joined us today from Zurich, wherein he was there for creating mutual understandings within many various countries. Having also worked in New York with reputed firms, he brings a truly global perspective to the profession. A dynamic leader and passionate speaker, he continues to inspire the CA fraternity through his commitment to excellence and professional growth. We welcome you, sir, for your opening remarks over here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, CA Payal Jain, the past chairperson from Belai branch, India. So thank you so much. I think you being moderating earlier the Global Udan also, and now moderating the Global Week, the 7th day. I truly honored and privileged to welcome all of you on this Global Week being held under the inspiring theme, Navigating Global Opportunities. I extend a warm welcome to our esteemed speakers, respected council colleague, Sanjeev Singhal Dale Pinto sir from Australia, Yaten Gupta ji, the speaker, distinguished guests, members joining from India and across the globe. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining on this 7th day, and truly an encouragement for the team from the directorate, from me personally and Sanjeev Singhal ji, the council member, the deputy convener of the directorate, to have an opportunity to interact with excellent speakers, distinguished guests, esteemed members from all across the globe in last 7 days. I can just share you the figure, almost 5,000 plus members participated from all over the globe and attended on the theme Navigating Global Opportunity, which was perfectly captured the essence of what we as professionals must strive for. So to look beyond boundaries, understand emerging business landscapes, and position ourselves as trusted advisors in constantly transforming global economy. In today's dynamic era, the role of chartered accountant is no longer confined to compliance of financial reporting alone. We are strategic partners who help businesses grow, sustain, and adapt amidst uncertainty. To successfully navigate these global opportunities, we need to enhance new technologies, cross-cultural understanding, and the ability to provide solutions that meet international benchmarks of excellence. So today, the first session which we have, Exploring Business Opportunity in Developed Australia, brings our focus to a country that represents economic resilience, strong governance, and a vibrant business ecosystem. Australia actually is a model of stability and innovation, offering immense scope for professionals in finance, accounting, sustainability, technology, and advisory services. Its strong ties with India, reinforced by an Indian-Australia Economic Cooperation and trade agreements, have opened up new avenues for collaboration, enabling professionals to engage more deeply in areas like digital finance, education, renewable energy, and strategic consulting. So I think that's what we'll all be eagerly waiting to listen to our experts who are here today. For our members from Australia and all over the globe, I sincerely thank all the participants for truly encouraging us to organize this global week starting from 29th of September till today, the 7th of October, doing connecting various representative offices, our chapter offices, creating awareness about the opportunities which are available on the theme navigating global opportunities. And I must thank sincerely every jurisdiction, every participants, every esteemed guest who joined for last 7 days and has shared their experiences to the participants. And I'm sure today also Australia being one of the leading global opportunities available for Indian chartered accountants, the pool of talent, the competence which Indian chartered accountants possess. I think Australia is one of the best jurisdiction for creating opportunities for ourselves. So once again, I welcome all the participants from the directorate. We are ensuring a lot of initiative. One important initiative which we started was a certificate course of US market. On the success of US market, we started the UK certificate course, which first batch got completed. So 10th batch of US certificate course is already launched. Members interested, please register at the directorate webpage. Do register and encourage all the speakers who are deliberating on this certificate courses, and then more initiatives in times to come. So once again, I thank all the distinguished guests, the experts, the participants who have joined today, Sanjeev Singhal from Delhi, who's there as the deputy convener, every office staff from the directorate who's helped to ensure that this 7 days go a long way with smooth functioning, connecting, and creating opportunities for members. So thank you very much, Payal, for this opportunity. Over to you.
That was really insightful, and providing information about the ICAI activities was an icing on a cake. Thank you so much, sir. Now here we have the Central Council member, highly talented yet the most humble man, C.S. Sanjeev Singhal, a multifaceted professional with expertise across various fields. The man behind this entire series, ICAI Global Week, which has opened the doors for the professionals around the globe. As a highly accomplished chartered accountant, he is also the deputy convener to the Development of International Trade and WTO Directorate. He has been serving ICAI through various committees during this tenure. His diverse interests and talents make him a well-rounded individual who inspires those around him. I kindly request you to put some light on the global opportunities for the members and how to chase to achieve the same. Please, C.S. Sanjeev, sir.
Thank you, Payal, and thank you, Chairman Abhay Chajarji, the Central Council member, and ensuring that even from Zurich he is able to take this session. And hats off to him for the splendid work done at the WTO. Welcome to Del Pinto, he also who is the President and Chair CPA Australia. It's indeed an honor for us that you took time. And CA Yatinder Gupta ji, the founding chairman ICAI Australian Sydney chapter, and the very respected audience. Today, we welcome you all to the day 7 of the ICAI Global Week 2025 as we continue our journey on the theme, navigating the global opportunities. Today, we turn our compass towards the southern hemisphere, which rises 5.5 hours before India. So when we say that you can work throughout the 24-hour day, so we start with maybe the New Zealand and Australia, then shift to India, and then to Europe, and then finally we go to US. In fact, this is a classical example that even how the Jamnagar refinery work was done, that there were different experts working in different parts of the world. So the work was done 24 hours a day. So similarly, our Global Week has also covered the entire world. And today we are in Australia, a land that is not just known for its kangaroos, beaches, and the cricket rivalry, but also for its resilient economy, transparent governance, and thriving professional landscape. Apart from good relationship with India. The theme Unmasking Australian Opportunity is most apt because in every mature market lies an unseen potential waiting to be uncovered by the Indian Chartered Accountants. As the deputy convener of this directorate, I'm delighted that ICAI continues to serve as a bridge connecting the Indian talent to global corridors of growth. Whether it is compliance, consulting, or capital, Indian professionals have time and again shown that they don't just adapt to global market, they enrich and redefine them. In a world that is calibrating its supply chains, investment patterns, and skill dynamics, Australia offers both stability and scalability, an economy that welcomes collaboration and celebrates competence. And who better to lead this dialogue than our fraternity that speaks the universal language of trust, ethics, and financial excellence. As Ghalib has beautifully wrote, first I'll tell in English, then his original version in Hindi. The journey itself becomes more beautiful than the destination when the companions are wise. सफर खूबसूरत है मंजिल से भी जब साथी समझदार हो. And today we have a lot of wise companions. Today with such an esteemed panel and an inquisitive audience, I'm certain that the session will not only inform but also inspire, guiding us to chart new professional horizons in the land down under. With that thought, let's begin this exciting exploration of opportunities in Australia. Thank you. Payal, you are on mute.
Payal, you have to unmute.
I'm really so sorry. Thank you so much, sir. Sanjeev sir, that was really enlightening. As usual, your insights always add value to so minutely to everyone. We are now privileged to have the presence of Professor Dale Pinto, FCPA Australia, President and Chair of the Board of CPA Australia. With over 3 decades of distinguished service in accounting, taxation, and higher education, Professor Pinto stands as a leading figure in the Australian accountancy profession. A John Curtin Distinguished Professor at Curtin University and an expert in Australian taxation and governance, he has contributed extensively to national boards, including the Tax Practitioners Board, the ATO Public Advice Guidance Panel, and the Board of Taxation Special Advisory Panel. Professor Pinto's career reflects a rare blend of professional excellence, academic distinction, and deep commitment to strengthening Australia's accounting and taxation landscape. The audience here, including all the distinguished guests, would be delighted to hear your views on the global opportunities, especially the different collaborations available in Australia from you, professors. Over to you, Professor Pinto.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that very generous welcome, Payal Jain. So on behalf of CPA Australia, I'm really delighted to deliver this keynote for the ICAI forum on a wonderful theme, a very topical theme of navigating global opportunities. Can I begin by acknowledging the distinguished guests who are amongst us, CA Sanjeev Singhal, CA Manoj Fadnis, CA Abjay Charjay, CA Yatinger Gupta, and CA Sanjit Jain. I'm honoured to be in your company. CPA Australia, as many of you would know, is one of the world's largest professional accounting organisations. We have more than 175,000 members working in over 100 countries across regions and the globe. CPA designation is both recognised and respected globally. And it signifies not just financial and accounting expertise, but increasingly business advisory and strategic advice that Abjay spoke about earlier. Nearly 1/3 of our members live and work outside Australia, and more than 2,100 in the wider South Asian region. So one of the advantages of our global reach is the opportunity to forge close relationships and collaborate with international institutions. And this includes professional accounting and finance bodies like the ICAI, governments, businesses, regulators, and of course, educational institutions. One of the relationships we're most proud of is the long-standing one we've got with your great body, the ICAI. Our respective organizations share a mutual commitment to the growth of accounting and finance expertise, both in India and also in Australia. In 2009, we signed a mutual recognition agreement, or MRA, with ICAI, and I'm delighted we renewed that for a third time in 2021. Now, this agreement strengthens the ability of our two countries to work together to provide high-quality education and to build the technical capabilities of accounting professionals working in our two countries. It also provides members from both professional bodies with a pathway to take up each other's designation and widen their global networks. Now, this collaborative and cooperative approach between our respective accounting bodies reflects the wider connections between Australia and India. As mentioned already, Australia and India share a long-standing relationship, strengthened by deep people-to-people bonds. The Indian diaspora is Australia's fastest growing and now exceeds 1 million people, or around 4% of our population. And that comprises skilled migrants, professionals, and also students. Our trade, investment, and economic relationship is growing faster than ever. India is the world's fastest growing major economy and is on track to become the world's third largest economy by 2030. India is currently Australia's fifth largest trading partner, with two-way trade in goods and services between the two countries valued at some US $35 billion last year. There are significant opportunities for collaboration between Australian and Indian businesses across a wide range of sectors, including education, financial services, agriculture, energy, resources, tourism, healthcare, infrastructure, science and innovation, and of course, we mustn't forget sport. These opportunities are facilitated through the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, or ECTA. This trade agreement has strengthened the linkages between our economies, creating more jobs and opportunities for businesses and exporters while reducing prices for consumers. In the past fortnight, I was honoured to represent CPA Australia alongside CPA Australia's CEO, Chris Freeland, at a full-day business conference in Sydney, co-hosted with the Sydney chapter of the ICAI. It focused on ways to bring the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement to life. This event was made special by the presence of your president, CA Charanjit Singh Nanda, who travelled all the way from India to join us in Sydney for this important occasion. And I once again thank your president for making time to join us. I had the privilege of joining Mr. Nanda in a conversation about our profession, the ties between our countries, and the relationship between our organisations. I was also honoured to share the stage with other distinguished guest speakers, including the Honourable Anilak Chantavong MP, New South Wales Minister for Industry and Trade, and representatives from Indian and Australian government agencies. It was an inspiring gathering with insightful discussions and a shared commitment to strengthening the economic ties between India and Australia. CPA Australia and the Australia-India Business Council used the ECTA conference as an opportunity to sign a Memorandum of Understanding. This formally expressed our commitment to future collaboration and strengthening professional and business ties between our two nations. ACTA, which came into effect in December 2022, has significantly reduced tariffs on goods traded between the two countries. Additionally, it has streamlined trade processes, providing a major boost to bilateral trade. From Australia's perspective, ACTA opens access to India's rapidly expanding market of more than 1.4 billion people, offering valuable opportunities for trade diversification. Australia, of course, has a far smaller population, only 27.2 million people. But nonetheless, Australia is the world's 13th largest economy, just behind Russia and Mexico, larger than Spain, South Korea, Indonesia, and Saudi Arabia. India and Australia's growing economic partnership presents significant opportunities for Indian companies wishing to expand into the Australian market. ACTA has made it easier for Indian businesses to export goods and services to Australia. Some of the key sectors providing opportunities for Indian businesses include the following: information technology and services, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, which is especially important as Australia has an aging population, education and training, renewable energy, and agribusiness and food and processing, to name but a few. Additionally, Australia's stable regulatory environment, skilled workforce, and proximity to Asia-Pacific markets make it an attractive destination for Indian investments. With cultural ties and a growing Indian diaspora, which, as I mentioned, already numbers more than 1 million people, Indian businesses are well positioned to build trust and long-term partnerships in Australia. Now, moving beyond the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, negotiations are also underway for a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. This will build on ACTA and deepen bilateral economic ties with key advantages in areas such as expanded market access, boosting services and skilled mobility, investment facilitation, digital trade and innovation, and strategic economic diversification, which of course is very important in the current geopolitical environment that we find ourselves in. Now, expanding into new markets may seem straightforward, but it requires careful planning and thorough due diligence. A strategic approach is essential. And my advice and experience to Indian enterprises looking to do business in Australia is the same as what I offer Australian enterprises wishing to enter India. And this is the need to build local relationships and make meaningful connections. This is exactly what CPA Australia is doing in India and across the Indo-Pacific more broadly. We're actively engaging with governments, employers, professional accounting bodies like the ICAI, businesses, and universities to foster strong partnerships. These relationships are vital. They create opportunities for our members to grow professionally and advance their careers. In turn, the knowledge and expertise of our members enhance CPA Australia's reputation and legacy. It's important to recognise that the Australian market is vastly different from India's. What works well in India may need to be adapted to succeed in Australia and vice versa. There are many factors to consider. Demographics is a key one. Australia, as I said, has a population of only 27.2 million, while India's population exceeds 1.46 billion. Australia's population is also older, with an average of 38.3 years, compared to India's younger average of 28.8 years. Additionally, a significant proportion of Australians live in urban areas. But beyond demographics, cultural differences shape distinct market needs, tastes, and preferences. And understanding the Australian consumer landscape is therefore crucial. The regulatory environment in Australia also differs from India's and can vary between the states. To navigate this complexity, businesses must engage with local professionals to understand the trading landscape and the different compliance requirements. And we've heard already, accountants play a vital role in international trade. They operate within a robust framework of standards and regulations, combining financial acumen with ethical practices and active stakeholder engagement. Accounting and finance professionals are essential to the smooth functioning of economies, supporting individuals and businesses of all sizes and governments globally. Especially in today's world, businesses face complex regulation and shifting economic priorities, especially amid geopolitical uncertainty. Market instability, disrupted supply chains, and economic volatility are now all common challenges. And in such times, stakeholders rely on accurate and transparent and verifiable financial information to make informed decisions. And this is where accountants can provide clarity and help maintain business stability. And they also connect global trade, commerce, and investment, offering multidisciplinary services to help navigate these global economic challenges. And this really underscores the importance of collaboration between professional bodies like ICAI and CPA Australia. Together, we create pathways for our members to work across borders, share insights, and contribute to the success, stability, and sustainability of companies, financial markets, and our respective economies. A useful starting point for businesses wishing to expand into new economies is therefore talk to your accountant. Increasingly, accountants are now seen as strategic advisors, not just compliance experts, and they can help businesses navigate change and make informed decisions. There are abundant opportunities in Australia for Indian businesses across the key sectors I mentioned earlier. The India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement is unlocking and accelerating these opportunities. With India's drive and innovation and the continued cooperation between our governments, I'm confident these opportunities will only continue to grow. So in conclusion, and on behalf of CPA Australia, I once again sincerely thank the ICAI for this opportunity to address the conference to discuss what opportunities may lie for Indian enterprises wishing to do business in Australia. We're set for a session of insightful discussions from the eminent lineup of speakers to further explore this fascinating theme. Thank you once again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. Back to you, Pyle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
so
Pinto.
much,
Pyle, just hold on. Thank you, Mr. Pinto, for covering the entire landscape, including the demographics of Australia and India, and really grateful. And I can understand the kind of preparation it would have gone into giving this kind of a deliberation, and your recent meeting with our Honorable President. I'm sure that this will further make our ties stronger. We also welcome our Honorable Past President, C.A. Manoj Fadnavis, under whom I was the co-opted member of Accounting Standard Board when he was the Chairman Accounting Standard Board, and now I had the privilege of becoming the Chairman of the Accounting Standard Board. So thank you so much, sir, for all this support that you extend to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Dale. I'm sure our Honorable President, C. Nanda sir, would have been pleasure to meet and greet you, as rightly said by C.S. Sanjeev sir. The information and numbers you provided had been thought-provoking. Providing information about so many collaborations was really insightful. I'm sure this would take us way ahead. We were glad to have your presence, Professor Dale. Thank you so much. And now, the chartered accountant, the professional who took profession to heights, needs no introduction. Yet, I would like to deliver that we are honored to have with us C.A. Manoj Fadnavis sir, former President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and former President of the Confederation of Asian and Pacific Accountants, representing 32 professional bodies across 23 countries. A visionary leader with deep expertise in corporate laws, taxation, and accounting standards, he has served on several prestigious national and international committees including IFAC's S&P Committee and the Company Law Committee of the Government of India. With over 1,000 technical papers presented worldwide, he continues to be an inspiring voice in the global accounting community. We are honored to have your presence over here, sir, and I kindly request you to please enlighten us with your special address on the global opportunities and how members can be at advantage for the same. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, CA Payal. Very delighted to join this webinar. Dr. Sanjeev Singhal, our chairman of the Accounting Standard Board and a very dashing Central Council member, a dear friend. Professor Dale Pinto, president and chair of the board of CPA. My very old and esteemed friend from Sydney, Yatinder. Very happy to see you on the screen there.
Very
and
surprised.
CA Sunit Jain and other friends who have joined this webinar. I must acknowledge and express my gratitude to the Institute for giving this opportunity to me to interact and be present in this webinar and share certain thoughts on this subjects. We just heard a very enriching talk by Mr. Dale Pinto with respect to how the Indo-Australia trade is happening and how Indo-Australia, the trade agreements, the kind of investment opportunities both in Australia and India and the various aspects that he very rightly covered. In fact, I must also state that during my tenure as president of the Confederation of Asian and Pacific Accountants, the CPA Australia was a source of great strength to CAPA, and we had many useful and fruitful meetings with the CPA leadership. Also, I am very happy to see that our current president, CA Nanda, visited, and there were very fruitful interactions between the two institutes. There is a lot of people very keen to take up membership of CPA Australia, and there's a lot of interest amongst the Indian chartered accountants, given the kind of trade opportunities, the business opportunities which lie between India and Australia. And I'm sure your proactive steps which the CPA Australia is taking, and some of them which I read was your initiatives in the MSME sector in Indonesia, as well as your contribution to your government in terms of the tax reforms, were, I must say, are really outstanding contributions which CPA Australia makes, and there is a lot to share and learn from both the institutes together. As friends, we have seen the kind of India-Australia trade agreement which took place way back in 2022, the kind of opportunities which have opened up, the trade expected to grow multiple number of times between the two countries from relatively modest levels to as high as was expected to grow up to $50 billion annually. And more importantly, to create jobs, more than 1 million of jobs across the two countries. So as accountants, as chartered accountants and as CPAs, I'm sure there is a lot which we as professionals can contribute to the smooth and efficient growth of the businesses across the two continents, help the businesses to ensure proper compliances with the laws and legislations in the respective jurisdictions, and more importantly, to also enable them to carry on the business in an efficient and process-oriented manner, which can help them to reduce cost and increase the margins, given the tough competitions which are there and the ever-changing trade tariff regimes as we see today. The geopolitical scenarios are always dynamic, have always been dynamic, and I'm sure will continue to remain dynamic. It is important that each business, each profession truly identifies the directions in which the winds are blowing, and accordingly adjust the sails of their ships so that they can sail smoothly and carry their clientele and the customers to the next level of destinations. I'm sure this webinar will be very useful with so many eminent speakers lined up. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjeev, for giving this opportunity to me. And I look forward to hearing from the other experts lined up in this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Collaboration between two continents adding to higher growth economies. So rightly said, sir. That was really so enlightening. As usual, sir, your insights always add value so minutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for your presence.
Thank you.
Founding partner of Forbes Accountants, Sydney, with over 30 years of accounting experience, a respected ASIC registered SMSF auditor, and a leading professional voice in the Australian accounting community. Here, I'm talking about the speaker of this session, CA Yatindra Gupta ji, on the topic Business Opportunities in Developed Australia. As the founding chairman and chief mentor of the ICAI Australian chapter, Sydney, CA Yatindra ji has been instrumental in building professional bridges between India and Australia, including his significant contribution to the mutual recognition agreement with CPA Australia and CA ANZ. He also chairs CPA's Inner West Accountants Discussion Group and has been honored with the CPA NSW President's Award for his outstanding services to the profession. CA Yatindraji's journey reflects leadership, integrity, and dedication to advancing global accountancy collaboration. We are all here very eager to hear you. On to you, Yatindra sir.
Thank you. Palji, I forgot actually a few things. Thanks for reminding me. I really forgot. Dale has done a lot of my work. I have to be honest. Dale, thank you very much. I prepare a lot of things, but he has covered all those things. So what I would do actually, if I can share my slide. So just share my screen, start, and I have here. Where's that? Technical. Okay, just one that. Not here. Okay, so I have to open that. Just bear with me. Can anybody see my screen?
Yeah, we can see.
Palji, can you see my screen? Oh, good.
Yes, sir, we can see your PPT.
Okay, good. Thank you. Saved my life. So I'm supposed to talk on business opportunity in Australia. So you are in India, you want to do business in Australia. So product, service, and investment, and Dale has spoken about all these things broadly, but I will take it further that pharmaceutical, textile, machinery. Actually, Mahindra car is selling very well here, by the way. And electric equipment and so forth. But one of those things which is very much respected here is the metro train. India is supplying metro train to Australia. And recently, only a few weeks ago, Indian government and Australian government has signed an agreement where Indian businesses, I believe, or government will supply 1 million homes to Australia valued around $500 billion. It's very good news. It is not covered here, but I thought I will talk about this one. In service sector, we have, of course, IT. Nobody can deny. Education and training, healthcare and telepath. So a lot of doctors are advising from India as well. But one of the main things where I want to have your attention, please. Any one of our a member, they will have some client. They can advise their client on preventive health tourism. Yes. Australian health budget is keep on going up. And like any other government, they need a solution. A week ago, I attended a full-day conference here in Ayurvedic. And I found that we have so much to offer to Australia, where government not only can save money, but also keep the citizen very healthy. This tourism does include Ayurvedic yoga and in a resort environment. It does actually include, by the way, if you want some aged people who can visit India, spend their time and get post accident recovery operation. This is also good. So preventive and post operation type of recovery. In case of investment, Australia is full of sun, a lot of sun, solar energy. Australia is really looking for partnership. Education, it is already happening. We have Western Sydney Uni in Gift City, tech startup, but two areas where I really want to highlight, agribusiness and dairy. So what happens if Indian manufacturer or retail supplier, wholesale supplier, they can tie up here with the farmers who can produce the crop as per our Indian market. Say, for example, any type of dal. We can have a milk product which is called, say, paneer, which is not very much popular in Australia. Well, of course, it is popular within Indian country, but not as a whole market. But we can get this one all done with the quality, which is very important part. We don't have what we have in America, I have to say, unfortunately. It's not like a non-veggie milk. It's a vegetarian milk. And you have all those very, very good quality product here. So, say, for example, you have a supplier in India, and they need a dairy-based product. They can have milk within Australia, or they can create another dairy farm and process the milk here maybe, or take the milk whatever way they want. And it could be very, very good business. I'm saying good business here, because it's not just somebody want to sell their agriculture product to India, but this is the product which India may really need it for protein purpose for vegetarian people. Agri-business, same thing again. This can be combined together, but it can be very, very a good scenario where Australian government will allow to deal with the farmer directly, or you have somebody who got the big farming land and they can produce, and you can work as a joint venture partner with that. So just I wanted to highlight on this one. Payalji, how much time we have so that I can go to next topic?
So you have 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes, okay. Now, I want to actually highlight as quickly as possible my point number D, business structure you should be aware of. So we have a company here, one director, one shareholder company, and we can form the company within 10 minutes if all the information is there. Trust is a very unique structure in Australia. It's called family trust and unit trust. In my opinion, if you want to deal with any business in Australia, you should be aware of that. Our member in India and also in Australia, they can help you. So please be aware of what structure you are dealing with. It's not straightforward, and it's one of the area where when we have comprehensive ACTA agreement soon, we have to have harmonization of our structures. The second part is tax implication you should be aware of. I found a lot of people, they don't do even a small due diligence. Say, for example, ABN, GST registration. You must check that part, because sometimes you have uh, the name is called legal name and beneficiary name. They may be different, and you can mix up, and then agreement, whatever you have signed, can be null and void. So my suggestion is take proper advice from our member that what structure you are dealing with, and whether they have all those tax registration or not. Right now, coming back to the company part, one director and one shareholder. One thing is required if somebody want to be director in Australia, they have to have a DIN, director ID number. If you do not have, you cannot become a director here. So when you are forming a company in Australia, you better have this DIN first, and then you form it, right? One of the big issues you will find is, I'm saying issue, but at the same time, it is solution as well. I will talk about it. So say, for example, when you're opening a company in Australia, you need to have a bank account. Now, because there's no formal banking, yes, I will repeat that part. There's no formal banking system between India and Australia, and I will repeat in such a manner that suppose you have a State Bank of India here, but they cannot help you with that, because to open a bank account with the State Bank of India here, they do not have all those facilities which you require to do the trading part. Same way, you have to have the CBA, say for example, Commonwealth Bank in Australia, they don't have any branch in India. They used to have before, but not anymore. And what is happening in this area is a big practical difficulty our clients are facing. So what do you have to do before you open a company? Make sure you plan it, so that you might have somebody, a director here, who can open your bank account, who can do all the company structure, and after that you change the shareholding and directorship. I have given you a very good clue for you if you want to write down. I'll repeat one more time that if you are opening a company here, do not straight away become director or shareholder. Firstly, you complete all the formality, and then you change it. Okay. Tax implication. ABN is a stand for Australian Business Number. Nobody can do a business unless you have ABN. So if you find anybody who's not quoting their ABN, they're quoting only ACN, you have to be very, very careful about it. Okay. Our member in India can also help a lot with that. And Ajay Chatterjee, you said something that you have certificate for America and UK. Actually, I'm feeling a bit jealous about it, because we, as the Australian chapter, tried at the very first to have Australian certificate. If you can take Manojji, request to you as well, and Sanjeevji, you should also start Australian certificate. And if any help required, it will be our immense pleasure to help. Hope I have completed within the time frame. And let's go to our friend Sumit Jain.
Thank you very much, Hitendraji. I might carry on with this
Actually,
presentation.
yeah, there's
Just
an
a
introduction
moment.
as well. Payal ji will introduce.
Yeah. That was really a way ahead in exploring the business opportunities, right from tech support to ensuing solar energy or focusing on agribusiness or dairy business. You spoke about everything, sir. Also, talking about tax implications and banking transactions was very much needed. Maybe we would soon have Australian certificate course as well.
Thank
Now,
you.
here we have another star in the galaxy of speakers today, C.A. Sunit Jain, a seasoned banking and financial services professional with over 20 years of experience in leadership and business focused roles. Until recently, he served as the managing director at Bank of New York Mellon, Sydney, bringing deep insights into Australian financial markets, risk management, and strategic operations. A chartered accountant from India and a long-time Australian resident, C.A. Sunit is a member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors and the Governance Institute of Australia. He currently serves as a non-executive director at Mountain Youth Services Team, contributing to community development and youth empowerment. An advocate of diversity, inclusion, and sustainability, CS Sunit combines professional excellence with a genuine commitment to social responsibility and professional growth. We all here are very eager to hear you, CS Sunit. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Balaji, for the warm introduction. Really appreciate it. Thank you, CSNG Singh. Thank you to CA Manoj Fitness. And it's great to have Professor Dave Pinto. Thank you so much for being the keynote speaker on this particular event. And thank you, Yatendraji, for starting the session as well. Really appreciate it. I'm honored to be presented with this opportunity to talk about a little bit more about Australia in the context of the opportunities that may exist. I think most of the presentation has actually been covered by Professor Dave Pinto and Yatendraji. So there will be a bit of a repetition, but I'll try and provide a little bit of an insight into the certain other points. Yatendraji, is it okay if you're able to scroll down?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, further down. Yeah, okay. So I think the topic is quite broad, and it'll be injustice to be able to cover it in 20 minutes. You can talk about it at length across all of us in Australia. So what I've attempted to do is to provide a few economic indicators for the audience to take away, which will give them food for thought and see how they could develop opportunities to trade between Australia and India. So I'll kick off with the fact that we have a cash rate of 3.6%. Within the Australian market. The Reserve Bank of Australia reduced it only last month. The view in the Australian economists is at the moment that this may be the end of the rate cycle and we may not see any further reductions. Previously, they were referring to maybe another 2 potential cuts. But we believe now that because of inflation being stubbornly high in Australia, which has come in at around about 3% for the last quarter, that the interest rates may be on hold for quite some time. And if anything, they may go up even next year. So that's just a little bit of a backdrop to all of the business that's done. It is predominantly driven off the back of the cash rate in Australia. Professor Dave Pinto has covered off the population aspect. Australia, we have a net population of roughly 27.4 to 27.2 million. I wanted to give the data point of the net overseas migration, which before COVID was roughly 515,000 individuals coming into Australia every year, which tapered off during the 2 COVID years, and then it really shot back up to 536,000 in 2022-23, which then further reduced in 23-24 to 446,000. So the migration numbers have been very strong every year into Australia. And as you can see, and Dr. Pinto also covered the fact that the Indian diaspora is steadily increasing, and the numbers have also increased from a migration perspective. Post-COVID, we've had roughly 40 to 45,000 Indian diaspora migrating into Australia, with the numbers actually touching 50,000 in 2023-24. So that gives a little bit of a sense on the population. Yatendraji, if you could move down to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. The GDP for 2024 worked out to roughly 2.6 trillion for Australia, as comparison to roughly 4.1 trillion for India. The GDP grew at a year-on-year rate of 1.8% as of June 2025. So a bit of a slow growth, but it's a steady growth at 1.8% within the developed nations. The next point was again covered by Yatendraji and Mr. Pinto in brief, but I'll talk through it a little bit more in detail. So Australia is facing a skills shortage at the moment as we speak, and I think that skills shortage has got to be covered through the migration that's coming in, plus also through the education system within Australia. So the 3 industries where Australia is currently facing a shortage is, to start off with, construction. We need an estimated 130,000 extra workers in order to meet the federal government's goal to build 1.2 million homes by 2029. At the moment, we have roughly 7 million dwellings in Australia. So you can compare 7 million dwellings versus a 27 million population. So there is a fair bit of shortage of actual dwellings within Australia, and the government has made a commitment to build 1.2 million additional homes by 2029. In order to meet that, we do need additional workers, extra workers, and that's something which the industry is really grappling with at the moment, with the book of work being quite extensive, but the supply being very limited. Healthcare, that is another point which Professor Dale Pinto touched upon. Australia's population is aging. We do have a median age of roughly 38 to roughly 40 in Australia in comparison to a very younger population or median age in India. And as a result of that, we are probably seeing an uplift in the number of people moving into aged care in Australia. And for that reason, we're expecting a demand of roughly 54,000 additional workers in Australia and 50,000 registered nurses in Australia in the coming years. So that's the shortage that we need to fill within the Australian market. And the last one, again, Yatendraji spoke about digital. We have a fair bit of shortages being experienced within the cybersecurity space, software development, and the cloud infrastructure spaces. Unfortunately, Australia has been hit by a large number of breaches over the last 24 months, I would say 12 to 24 months. You may have heard in the media, we had an Optus breach, we had a Medicare breach, and all of these are due to cyber breaches. So we do need to strengthen the talent within these particular areas. So Australia, again, finds itself a bit short on that. Now I'll move quickly to the Australian export industry, which again has been touched upon, but just a few numbers over there. The total value of goods and services exported in 2024 aggregated roughly Australian dollars 420 billion, which fell by roughly 4.5% due to softer global demand. So out of an Australian economy of, say, 2.6 trillion, which I referred to previously, we have roughly 420 billion that's coming in from export industry. So it's, you could say roughly 20% or shy of 20% is from an export perspective. In 2024, Australia's top 5 partner countries for merchandise and services exports were Japan, South Korea, United States. Sorry, Yatendraji, if you could just scroll up a little bit. Thank you so much. So it was Japan, South Korea, United States, and India. I've given a few of the numbers over there. China was clearly number 1 at 196 billion, followed by Japan, South Korea, USA, and India. Now, India, you can see, is at roughly 35.5 billion in terms of exports, and it actually rose by 1.4%. So Australia continues to look towards India as a trading partner from an export perspective. Australia is always looking to explore new horizons, and within new industries, Yatendraji spoke about the agri business. We spoke about renewables as well. So there is a lot of opportunity between the Australia and India trade corridor, which can be inbound and outbound, given Australia's strengths lie pretty much in the mining and energy commodities sector, which is moving on to the next table. So the 5 which I referred to are mining and industry, energy commodities. We've talked about education. Now, Australia is a big exporter of education within the market, and that all comes from the Indian students and the Chinese students who come into Australia to the universities. The universities in Australia are top-rated universities. In fact, we have 2 universities in Australia, the University of Sydney and the UNSW, University of New South Wales, that are rated amongst the top 20 under a global standard as well. So there is a lot of demand from global students coming into Australia, and we see that this will continue to grow given the geopolitical tensions at the moment and what's happening within the US and the UK economies. I think we will continue to see a lot more positive growth within the education sector. Australia is an exporter of gold. Roughly $36 billion of Australian gold is exported, and India being a large consumer, there could be an opportunity between the two countries from an export and import perspective. Personal travel tourism is a big export services for Australia. It currently stands at roughly 23 billion. I did read a report which was issued that in 2024, roughly 7 million visas were issued by the Australian government to global tourists. And we again continue to see that this will be a positive growth with a lot of visitors traveling as the geopolitical scene currently plays out. So beef is another one of the top, which makes up the top 5 exports for Australia. So as you can see, there are possible synergies and opportunities within the Australia-India corridor for some of these exports to actually manifest and to become more prominent within the India corridor. The last piece which I would like to, Yatendraji, if you could move on. The last piece which I would like to touch upon is the size of the Australian funds management industry. And Yatendraji spoke a little bit about the family trust legal structure, but I would like to probably draw everyone's attention to the fact that the Australian funds industry is significantly large. I think Australia is rated as the 3rd largest pension industry in the globe. And out of the $4.3 trillion, which is the total funds under management, there is roughly 3.2 trillion, which is managed by superannuation funds in Australia. And to put it very simply, superannuation funds are very much similar to the Provident Fund mechanism back in India. Unlike India, in Australia, the super funds have discretion to invest in private assets. So they don't need to simply invest in the Australian government bonds, but they can invest across multiple asset classes. They can invest in equity. They can invest in fixed income. They can invest in Australia. They can invest in global markets to diversify their portfolios. So there is a huge amount of assets that these super funds manage. And the main objective and purpose for these super funds is to generate a yield for their members, which they can then tap into when they retire. So the retirement age kicks in at 61, which is the pension age that kicks into Australia. So all employees contribute towards super fund automatically through their salary, and these super funds generate a lot of fund flow during the course of the year, which they have to deploy into different asset classes. So there is again a quite significant opportunity that could exist within this particular space, where we could have these super funds starting to invest into India and in either infrastructure assets or into public markets or into private markets, being venture capital and private equity funds, which we have seen a number of super funds talking about it and looking to deploy funds. Within the super fund context, there is also something called a self-managed super fund, which is very analogous to the family trust structure that Yatendraji spoke about. Self-managed super fund is also a trust, and a family can actually create a self-managed super fund. The difference between industry managed super fund and a self-managed super fund, as the name suggests, is that in a self-managed super fund, the family will have full discretion in managing where the funds are invested, whereas in an industry super fund, it's the portfolio manager of that particular super fund will take the decisions of where to invest the funds. So the individual does not have any discretion, whereas in a self-managed super fund, the individual has a discretion of where they can choose to invest their funds. So we have seen a growing trend of a lot of individuals actually taking money out of super funds and creating their own self-managed super fund because they would like control of their investments. This industry, this particular fund industry has grown to $1 trillion. It's just crossed 1 trillion in June 2025. And overall, we believe that the 4.3 trillion fund management industry could actually surpass $13 trillion by 2045. So we're quite excited about this particular aspect. We continue, as chartered accountants, we continue to talk to the super funds. We continue to educate them about India and the opportunities that exist with a view that they take a longer term objective of investing into India. So a quick summary in terms of where the opportunities are. Exports out of Australia into India across the different asset classes, different products and services. There's an opportunity over there. There's an opportunity within the funds management industry. And as Yatendraji mentioned, that there is also an opportunity in the education sector, where 2 of the Australian universities have actually opened centers within GIFT City to try and attract Indian students to get educated through the Australian curriculum. So I think the future is quite exciting, and we believe that through this presentation, which Yatendraji and I have delivered over the last 30 minutes, we've been able to attract a bit of excitement on where the opportunities exist, and we'll be more than happy to take any questions from anyone in the audience. Thank you, Payalji.
I'm sure the audience has been glued to their screens with such kind of deliberation from you, Sunitji, talking about various shortages such as digital or skills shortage and the way they can be catered was really insightful. Providing so much of numbers really must have needed a great research. Opportunities catering import and export was also insightful. Thank you so much for your presence. And we do have a question for you. Which segments of the Australian construction industry are currently facing the highest shortage, be it skilled labor, project management, or material supply?
Sure. It's predominantly the first 2 that were mentioned, Payalji. It is more in the actual trades people who do the construction. So just to get into the micro details, it could be a bricklayer who actually puts the bricks onto houses. We have a shortage of those. We could have shortages of plumbers, of fence landscapers. So it's actual tradespeople who are required for building a house at different stages are a place where we're experiencing a massive shortage, because there are sites which are being developed, but there aren't enough tradespeople to visit each and every site and to build the houses. Project management is another area which is in short supply, because it's a very skilled kind of a job where you need to line up each and every tradesperson in a particular manner to ensure that the completion is on time. A lot of the project homes have a particular time frame. They have to be completed within 6 months. If they're not completed within the time frame, then the penalties apply. So the developers do need skilled labor in the form of project management staff as well. In terms of materials, I do believe that the shortage was experienced during COVID, but now I think the shortage has been curtailed, and we're starting to see the supply come in, albeit at very high prices. So that's the reason why construction costs are going up, unfortunately. But I think the supply is starting to come through. The supply chains have opened up. There was a bottleneck of the supply chains during COVID, which created a lot of under supply. The ships were not leaving the ports, etc. I believe all of that has been ironed out. So I don't believe that's where there is a shortage at this stage.
Okay.
I hope I'm able to answer that.
Yeah, you did. Yatindra sir, the question is for you. Can you please tell about how can we overcome the banking transaction glitch that you were saying into your PPT?
So I'll take you 1 or 2 stop maybe back. In Australia, we have software like Xero, you might have heard. So we have transactions coming from bank directly. Okay, we don't enter the transaction anymore. And if you open an account with the State Bank of India, it's very hard to do internet banking with them. Okay, that to State Bank of India is not linked with the Xero also. It's a problem. And the processing payroll and everything becomes so difficult. So you have no option but to open with the local bank. This is a problem. Now, what to do? This is a problem. Easy to talk about problem. What's the solution? Solution, I work it out. So you open the company with a local director, which could be your accountant at that time, whoever it is. They do all your formality, including the bank account, which is very important part. Anybody who's listening to me, please make sure when you are hiring an accountant here, ask them please form the company or whatever structure you choose, and then also do all the ATU compliance, open the bank account as well. And after that, you do the transfer of share and directorship and all those things. This is a very expensive mistake if you do not take care of. And trust me, your client will love you, my chartered accountant friends.
That was really a great advice. The next question again is for you. What opportunities exist for foreign businesses, especially Indian businesses, directly or through partnerships, to plug into these gaps that have been created due to shortages?
Okay, so one of the items which I really wanted to highlight, in Australia, we have a lot of research. There's a body called CSRO here. They are spending $1 billion every year. But what happens when it comes to optimization and commercialization? We are not successful. Obvious reason, we don't have manpower. So anybody who can do optimization and commercialization, you can have good tie-up here and you can have good technology. And both Australia and India can benefit like anything. And also, which is very important part, that technology can be used for the well-being of all humankind in the world. So I'll repeat, there's a body called CSRO. They have so many proven technology in the shelf, rusting. If somebody want to really have this capability of optimization and commercialization in India, we can, the offices in Canberra, can go there, have a tie-up. They're happy to do with that, unless it's a restrictive type of technology. And you can optimize in India and commercialize in India and make it made in India. And then you sell to whole world. So this is one of the big thing I would suggest for our Indian clients to please do consider. Other two, which I really want to do is having a facility here. Say, for example, you want to do a preventive tourism. Have a bit of head office here, or I call it branch office, or a location here where people can go touch and feel. Then they will have far more confidence to go to India. Or you can have a whole, suppose you have Association of Ayurveda. They can open one location here. People can come and then select where to go and what to do. That might be far better option. Okay. Similarly, I want to say, for example, have very small industry. Say in Lucknow, we have chicken ka kurta, you know that, what do you call? Chicken ka tha na badhiya wala kapda jo main Lucknow mein rehta tha. So now they are very, very small industry. But if they have association here, and they can open a small office here, this is the only way you can be successful. The small person just can't do everything. So the association in India, they can call it cooperative type of situation where they can open a location here and capture the market. So for Lagu Udyog, small guys, this is how they can be successful in Australia. Hope I have answered the question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. The next question is to Sunitji for you. Can you please elaborate about the legal implications of the trust fund with regards to investment opportunities?
The legal implications of the trust funds. Yeah, I think a lot of the funds out here require track record in terms of before they invest into global assets. And I think that's something which when we talk to the super funds, they're always looking to ensure that because they have investment committees in Australia, and all the assets which they invest into are actually vetted by the investment committee. So there needs to be a very good track record before the super funds can start investing into global assets, because they have a fiduciary responsibility towards their members. So that's number one, and I think we can establish that track record. We can provide visibility to the super funds of how the assets are performing back in India and the avenues which are available for them to invest. In terms of the self-managed super funds, the trust itself can be set up in Australia, and Yatendraji actually can help in setting up those particular trusts as well, in addition to family trusts. So all the legal paperwork can be done within the Australian context. You have a trust which is set up. You have a trustee company that oversees the trust. It could be the individuals can be the trustee company, or you could have a trustee company. There are two ways in which a trust can be governed. And you have a trust deed, which is signed between the members of the self-managed super fund and the trustee company. And once those two particular companies, or the trust and the trustee company, are set up, then the trust can start investing into particular assets. Now, if I
can add your from it will help you.
Sure.
So, okay, so SMSF and family trust, they both are trust, but SMSF is regulated by SIS Act. Family trust is not. So, Suniti, you said $1 trillion in SMSF. The problem is this. Indian opportunities, I call it opportunity, they do not recognize SMSF as an entity. This is the problem. Even Gift City guys, I spoke with them, they don't understand. So what is happening here is this. In trust, you have a trustee and trust. So you have two types of ownership. One is called legal ownership. One is called beneficial ownership. Trustee is a legal owner of the same asset. And trust is the beneficial owner. So when we are getting the document from India to the auditor here in Australia, they have to identify that part, who is who. Otherwise, auditor qualify, and that's why SMSF are not really investing big way in India. Hope it will help to understand that if you want to have money from SMSF, please do understand the structure so that you can give a proper document to trustee, and then auditor will issue a non-qualified report. Otherwise, it becomes messy.
Okay. Thank you both of you. One last question to you, Suniti, again. What ICAI and CPA Australia is doing in terms of granting visa to people who want to come in as independent consultants?
Okay, Yatendraji, did you take that?
If I can help my friend Suniti.
Yeah.
So, number one, you got to have your qualification assessed by either CPA or CA Australia. That's number one. Without that, it will be very hard. Then it comes to your age factor as well. I've been approached by somebody who is 58 yesterday only. So, well, it's too late. Then you have state-based policy as well. Suppose if you go to South Australia, Adelaide, you have far better opportunity than coming to Sydney. So this is state-wise. Then you have further specialization that might also help. But if you're coming as a business visa, rules are totally different. My strong suggestion would be have somebody proper qualified lawyer, not agent. I've seen a lot of bad cases because they do not go through proper advisors. So I'll repeat again. It depends which state you apply to. Every state got different policy. My understanding as of today is South Australia or Western Australia are better. And even Darwin, Northern Territory is better. Number two, what is your specialization. Number 3, CA and CPA, they assess your qualification, but they do not provide visa or anything like that. Okay. If you apply as a business visa, rules are different. Hope it will help.
Just to add further to what thank you, Yatindraji. To add further to what Yatindraji said, just to give everyone a bit of context, Australia is going to possibly be facing a shortage of roughly 50,000 accountants over the course of the next 5 to 7 years. That's what has been in the industry, and CPA Australia and ICAI are working frivolously to try and bridge that gap as far as possible as we can. So, as Yatindraji said, we don't issue the visas, but we do the assessment, and we do it quite swiftly to encourage more members to partake within this particular industry to try and mitigate that gap. There is also CPA's offices back in India, which is promoting the rules and the accounting standards within the Indian context. So I think the shortage has got to be bridged, and the two institutes are working as much as they can to try and bridge it. Just again, anecdotal, the Sydney chapter of ICAI, of which I'm a committee member, we are also growing at a very rapid pace, although small numbers, but we do see a lot of CAs come into Australia and become members. So we've now grown to more than roughly 500 members in our Sydney chapter itself, which Yatindraji, when he started, and the founding member of the chapter, I think Yatindraji, it was 7 members, going back 2008, if I'm not wrong.
7.
7, there you go. So we had 7, and now we're a strong cohort of 500 in Sydney alone, and we do have chapters in Melbourne and Brisbane as well. So it just shows that there is a growth trajectory of talented individuals coming to the Australian market, and we would hope that that continues, and both the institutes will do what they can to support this particular agenda. Thank you, Payalji.
And we have a lot of information, Payalji, on our website. If you go to chapter website, it's called Welcome Pack for new member. And if you read, you have so much good information relevant up to date.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm sure the participants would love to visit the website, and I would like to thank CA Yatindraji and CA Sonikji for this wonderful session of the ICAI Global Week. It was really enlightening, and there had been a lot of value addition from both of you. Now, continuing with our next session, the last session of this ICAI Global Week series, Navigating Opportunities in Emerging Australia, we have with us the eminent speakers CA Mahadevan Shankar and CA Srinivasan, who would be taking the next 2 sessions past next 1.5 hours. Mr. CA Mahadevan Shankar, he is from across the globe, a very, very eminent speaker. We are really delighted to have your presence, and ICAI is grateful that you could spare time here. The Directorate of International Trade and Services, WTO, are privileged to have you and welcomes you on behalf of ICAI. I'm really sorry. CA Mahadevan Shankar, a highly accomplished chartered accountant with over 3 decades of international experience, a graduate of the University of Mumbai, he is a qualified member of multiple prestigious accounting bodies, including the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Chartered Accountants of Australia and New Zealand, and Certified Practicing Accountant of Papua New Geneva. Mr. Shankar has held numerous leadership and advisory roles, including with the Australia-India Chamber of Commerce, the National Maritime Foundation of India, and the PNG India Business Forum. He is also a respected member of the Institute of Internal Auditors in Australia and has contributed significantly to India-Australia business relations. With a deep commitment to strategic affairs, finance, and international collaborations, CA Shankar brings a wealth of insight and experience to every platform he joins. So here we are looking forward for an engaging session by you, C.A. Shankar Mahadevan sir. Over to you.
Thanks, Payal. Good evening, everybody. A big namaste to all our audience and all our colleagues on the panel. It was fantastic to hear what the others had to say, so I'll try and avoid duplicating it. And since Srinivasan is going to be speaking on some good areas, I'll try and avoid taking away the thunder from his presentation. I'm going to try and share a PPT I put together a bit quickly. So just help me out. I'm assuming you guys can see it.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. I'll move away from this. Go to the next slide. Come on. Okay. What I'm trying to do in the first slide is trying to give a bit of a perspective on how all the aspirations that we have to do business in different parts of the world need to come together. And this is an opening slide I had last year at the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue, where I was presenting on the importance of critical minerals and supply chains between Australia, India, Japan. And I thought I'll put out the 5 critical minerals out there, and then the thread that goes at the bottom is copper. And the importance of copper cannot be underestimated, because without copper, all these critical minerals are pretty useless. Sorry, Payal, how much time do I have on this? I'll just put my timer on.
Sir, you have 25 minutes.
Okay, I'll set it for 20. So why I thought I'll put this analogy out here is, during the course of the presentation, I'll try and see how I can thread the whole importance of the opportunities that Sunit and Yatin had mentioned, and a couple of speakers earlier have mentioned, including Dale Pinto, about what's there between Australia, India, and how we can go about navigating the pathways. So I thought I'll give a bit of a broad overview on the 5 areas which I thought will be important, and then I'll try and dive down on it. So to identify the pathways, obviously, first we need to make a diagnostic of what we are trying to achieve in business between Australia and India, make an assessment of what's the demand and supply before we dive in to identify the areas we want to get into. Obviously, the ECTA and SICA related pathways are going to be there. It's ECTA and SICA has been mentioned by the previous speakers. I'll touch upon AES 2020 roadmap, which was written by Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, and some of the priority industry sectors arising from that, and then obviously how we go about into converting all of it into actual dollar transactions. So to do a bit of a diagnostic, obviously the first thing is to have a dialogue. Whom do we have a dialogue with? If you're coming from India, you want to talk to the CII, you want to talk to FICCI, you want to talk to ASSOCHAM, but most importantly, you also talk to the government agencies, whether it's at the central government in Delhi, or it could be the state governments, or in the case like where I live in Brisbane, there is a sister city relationship with Hyderabad and a couple of other places. So you may want to even talk to your local city council people out there and see where exactly you can do. Then you have the trade industry chambers in Australia, like Australia-India Business Council, there's Australia-India Chamber of Commerce, there's an ANZ India Business Council, there is an Indo-Australia Chamber of Commerce. You have a plethora of these, and then you have Austrade, which is an umbrella body of the Australian government, which kind of has a massive footprint in India because they have offices, I think, in almost every important city that matters. There is Trade Investment Queensland, from where I come. Then there's similar equivalent trade investment councils in each of the other states and territories in Australia. So once you start looking into these government departments and councils and chambers, you start extracting information of data, where you want to do, what you want to do. Then you can drill it down once you have decided which are the industry sectors you want to go into. And unless you have not done this basic due diligence, I've seen experiences of where people come across to Australia, they want to do business, they pick up the phone, call some friends, and then they say, koi contact hai kya yahan par? Koi contact wahan par hai kya? So in Australia, things work with contacts, but people tend to do it a bit differently than from in India. And vice versa. For those who want to do business from Australia to India, it's important to have the right contacts in India, because in India, people for 1,000+ years have been doing business through word of mouth, relationships are personal, and unless that bonding and trust is not built up, you're not really going to break ice. And I'm saying this from some experiences of where I've seen some Australian businesses, both Indian origin people as well as Caucasians who go to India, spend a lot of money, come back thinking India is a difficult place to do business. But reality is different. And one of the most important things in the pathway for doing business is that you sign up only after you've done your KYC, do your due diligence. I've seen instances where people have gone, burnt their fingers, spent a few $100,000, and after that they say, oh, I think the Indians are cheating us. Or then the guys from India say, oh, the Australians are difficult. They are racist. They don't do business. They don't do this way, that way. So it kind of throws people off track. So it's very important. Do your KYC, do your due diligence, and then jump on the flight. After that, I think half your mission is accomplished over there. Now, in terms of ECTA and SICA, ECTA is Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement, which was signed in April 2022, and SICA is in the process of being completed. It's dragged on for a couple of years. There's some hard bargaining going on both sides. There's a link I put up over there of an article I'd written, I think last year I'd written this. It's a follow-up of the article I'd written in 22 in the Financial Express. I'll share it in the comments later. It's basically a broad overview of what exactly is happening and how the tailwinds are picking up in terms of business between Australia and India. And when I say tailwinds, previously, Australia used to be having the tariff barriers going into India, whether it was sugar, whether it's barley, whether it's minerals, and vice versa. Indians are having it difficult to break into the Australian market. So after ECTA got signed, about 6,000 commodity line items, the tariffs were all either reduced to zero or there was a scale in which they were being reduced. So that would be an important document to look up for anyone wanting to do business between both countries. Obviously, the SICA is in the process of being finalized, so I won't dive deeper into that. Now, in terms of country visits, yes, it's important for people to actually jump on a flight and come. And like I said earlier, it's important to do your KYC and do your due diligence. And I've had experiences without naming entities. The last point about building trust and avoid circumvention is where everything was arranged for a particular meeting with the Perth Mint for doing some gold refining in India. I built up the excitement, got Perth Mint interested. They said, okay, fine. This Indian refinery doesn't have the London Bullion Market Association certification. And without LBMA certification, Perth Mint wouldn't do it. And guess what? The Indian CEO and the other guys, they came, they met the guys at Perth Mint, gave all the assurances, and 1 week later, Perth Mint gets to know those guys have gone around talking to the mines in Australia saying, don't bother about Perth Mint, do business with us directly and we'll give you a better price. That's it. That company was blacklisted, and I don't think any of the Australian mining companies want to touch that refinery. And why I'm giving that experience is it destroys the brand image of India. It spoils the impression that this 1 million diaspora is trying to create and trying to build bridges. And it becomes a hurdle for other companies who want to come and do business in Australia and vice versa. In terms of the AES roadmap, I spoke to Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, and unfortunately he couldn't come today. He's somewhere in Chennai, actually out at Mahabalipuram, and he's doing a presentation to the IIM. But I've contributed to this AES 2020 report. The website, the link is there. I would encourage everybody to go and look up that link. The link has an executive summary. It's broken down the priority sectors for what Indian companies are looking to do in Australia. That's why it's called Australia Economic Strategy 2020 report. So Ambassador Wadhwa, he's the former Secretary East of Ministry of External Affairs, and he was appointed as the chair of the CII committee. He spent a couple of years going around meeting stakeholders around the country. And that report is, I wouldn't say it's the Bhagavad Gita of doing business, but it's maybe an Upanishad or a Purana, a smaller version. But it's a good guide for anyone who wants to come from India and look into doing business in Australia. It's got the manufacturing, it's got various sectors. I'll come into that. Now, I'm giving you this as an example of I found there's a bit of challenge between Australian and Indian companies to do business in the defense sector. Now, I'm an accidental think tank guy, and from an accountant, many people ask me, how do I end up in the defense sector? So one thing led to another in a small WhatsApp group of 6 people, and today it became about 170 people, retired admirals, generals. And with all the conversations we kept having, I found there was a space for doing B2B business. But at the G2G level, Australia and India were finding it difficult to get the right people to find and create a platform. So pulled a few strings together, and both these big associations, Society of Indian Defence Manufacturers and Australian Industry Defence Network, managed to pull everybody together, and we signed this MOU. And this was during COVID, so it was a virtual summit that we facilitated. And thanks to this MOU, it created a lot of awareness, and a lot more defense company manufacturers between both countries started talking to each other. It started facilitating more discussions, and the ball started rolling. So with that background, what I thought I'll do is I'll put a few of the industry sectors where the opportunities are there, and I'll try and talk through the pathways. Some of these areas I think the previous speakers have touched upon, so I won't dive too deep into it. In terms of healthcare, like earlier it was said, there is potential for vaccine. There's potential to do significant amount of research and development. Australia has some fantastic technologies. In fact, there are some Indian diaspora people I know who are heavily involved in developing vaccines, and also some into cancer research, into dementia, as well as the basic day-to-day flu vaccines. And one example I can give you is, I think it was in August 2018 or 2017, I may be getting the year wrong, when the Nipah virus broke out in Kerala. So the then High Commissioner of India, Dr. Ajay Gondani, calls me up around 11 a.m. on a Monday morning when I'm driving to a meeting, and he says, Mahadevan, थोड़ा मदद चाहिए, वो वैक्सीन चाहिए क्वींसलैंड से निपा के लिए. So immediately I said, sir, निपा आदमी है कि औरत है? He said, अरे यार वायरस है. I said, oh wow, okay. I'm an accountant, not a doctor. Anyway, one thing led to another, and he told me how difficult it's going to be through the bureaucracy, and he wanted me to jump in. I made a few calls during the day, understood what the Nipah virus is, got to know who makes the antibodies. Queensland Department of Health got activated. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, after making a lot of calls here and there, the vaccines ended up in Kerala by Friday morning, and hopefully that saved about 1,000 lives. So while we can be bean counters, accountants, we can also look outside our day-to-day job and see where we can add value. Defense. Now, I can possibly spend an hour talking about it, but I'll try not to go too much into it. Like I mentioned earlier, that MOU has facilitated a lot of conversations in drones and missiles, in shipbuilding, A2AD, anti-area access denial technologies, which if some of you have seen in the past couple of months ago, I think, DRDO in India and their counterpart in Australia have signed up an agreement. They're going to be building some deep sea technologies to detect any potential threats to submarine cables, because without submarine cables, especially the fiber optic cables, this conversation would not be happening. The entire world internet would be disrupted. And it has happened, some of it has happened in the Baltic Sea, where the Chinese vessels have thrown their anchor down at about 800-meter depth, and they have destroyed some deep sea cables. It's happening in other parts of the world also. There has been a lot of exercises that have happened in the defense space, the Malabar exercises, Operation Pitch Black, and other things. But why I'm giving you this opportunity is this particular defense area is arising from the big integrators that operate, whether it's L&T Defense, whether it's Tata Defense, Adani Defense, or other areas, and their counterparts in Australia. There is a lot of niche technologies that are being created. And many of you may be aware, drone technologies have gone through the roof. Everybody is watching the wars around the world. But there is adaptability of the drone technology into agriculture, into healthcare sector, into a myriad of industrial applications. Same thing with what gets put into the missiles. There is a lot of human day-to-day needs that can be satisfied also. And these are things which we as accountants or CFOs or strategic advisors, we can be aware of it and we can add to it, or we can multiplier effect, we can do it. It depends on what kind of passion levels you want to do. And like I said, my childhood dream was to be an Air Force pilot, but I've ended up becoming a chartered accountant. So maybe my unfinished karma has brought me back into the defense space through think tanks, and I'm able to passionately learn a lot and add value back. So while doing all of this, there's space and geospatial. Now, Australian Space Association has tied up with ISRO in India. There's an MOU that has been signed up. So the space industry, the private sector industry in India is booming. There is good potential for joint ventures and collaborations with their counterparts in Australia. Solar, rooftop, and grid technologies are developing a lot in Australia. There's huge potential into India. Silica, that raw material, is something so critical. Actually, I'm talking to a particular mining out here in Queensland, and their silica has been capable of producing a particular type of glass that can enhance the solar power generation by 20%. And I never knew about that, but I'm learning that thing also. Same thing about rare earths. There is a lot of rare earth conversations that's happening. You'll have seen what's happening in the American-Chinese tariff war, where China decided they'll hold back on rare earth and critical mineral supply. So there is a demand for Australia and India to jump into it, where India can become the manufacturing hub, Australia can be the raw material supplier, and possibly Japan can come in with technologies also. Agriculture, water management, I've touched on that. LNG, Australia is possibly the largest, if not second largest LNG producer after Qatar. Last year, there was a report put out that Indian government has decided to increase the LNG in power generation in India from current level of 6% to almost 15% by 2030 to 2035. So if India is currently importing 80 million, India is currently importing about 80 million tons of LNG per annum. So if it has to increase from 6 to 15, Australia is a big market. I think the superannuation part of it has been touched upon. There is good potential to get into critical infrastructure, whether it's ports, hospitals, airports in India. There's a massive demand for funding. I think education and skills development, someone did talk about it, but from where I see it, I think the numbers I had seen as per annum, India is putting out about 60 million graduates, 60. That's about 6 crores. So there's 60 million graduates coming out. What are their skill sets? How can they come up to the international standards? If India wants to become the manufacturing hub of the world, how are these people going to be on par? You cannot have a Maruti Suzuki being compared with a BMW or a Lexus or a Volvo. So we need to skill up, and obviously the potential is there for Australia to supply the skills training. Tourism, movie industry, well, coming from Mumbai, Bollywood is close to my heart, and same thing, what I see out here, there are plenty of Australians who actually are involved in the Indian film industry, whether as stunts or in the production, as well as bringing a lot of the movie makers to Australia. Tourism, I think it works both ways. India is also demanding a lot. Australia is pushing a lot. In fact, our former president, Nilesh Vikamsi, just today was messaging me that he's going to be in Australia, but he's going to be in Sydney, Adelaide, and Melbourne, not in Brisbane. So I may possibly have to look at his visa and cancel it if he doesn't come to meet us in Brisbane. Sports, everybody knows there's a big love for cricket in both countries. Chess is picking up a lot. Soccer, obviously, India and Australia play a lot. Swimming, Australia, if those who have been watching the Olympics and other world championship, I don't know how, but in a small population of 26 million, Australia walks away with the most number of gold medals. Kabaddi is a sport that's picking up in Australia, but maybe Srinivasan can talk a bit more, because I heard there was some event that was happening in Melbourne about Kabaddi. Talking about defense, when I show this photograph to a few people, they asked me, what are you doing with the promos? I said, well, luckily I did not go with the free delivery that was done earlier this year to another country. But it was important for me to share India's capabilities in such kind of supersonic technologies and how Australia can benefit with it. Traditionally, Australia has been aligned with Europe and the American markets and the defense supply manufacturers. Now, they have seen the massive development that India has been doing on its own in terms of the defense sector space. And in the geopolitics, Australia is now facing a contestation, not just in the South China Sea, but in the South Pacific region. In fact, yesterday, there was a defense treaty signed between Australia and Papua New Guinea, which is more geopolitical contestation that's happening not just in the Indo-Pacific region, but Australia and India being the two largest economies and democracies. Both of us saddle the Indian Ocean region. India is on the west part of the Indian Ocean region and Australia is on the east. In fact, Australia's west coast is a massive, massive coastline with Indian Ocean region. So there is potential for more defense collaboration. And talking of the Indian Ocean region, this is the slide which I had put up again last year at the IPRD. It basically is going to be the future of Australia-India relationship. We will have to do a lot of Samudra Manthan out there, whether we are churning for deep sea critical minerals, whether we are churning the oceans to try and develop more connectivity. Many people, I tell them the distance between Australia and India is just 2,600 kilometers as the crow flies. That's technically the distance between Andaman Nicobar Islands and Coco Island, the two sovereign territories of both the countries in the Indian Ocean region. So unless we don't keep churning and churning a relationship, it's pretty highly important for us to generate the essence of this whole and build it up. And unless we don't build it up, it's been a massive journey. I've done a bit of historical research, and current bilateral trade is somewhere about expected to close at $48 or $49 billion, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. There is potential for it to grow to 100 billion. And how it will grow? Through all those industry sectors I've mentioned. And obviously, last but not the least, once we have undertaken all our due diligence, we obviously need to start building and scaling up infrastructure for production, for manufacturing, for distribution. Now, Australia is a small market, 26 million. In fact, at one time, I think the Apple CEOs, when Australia threatened Apple, the CEO said, okay, we'll stop doing business with you guys. And I'm giving you this example because I think it was during COVID, where a businesswoman in Queensland said she wanted to get access to some supplier in India for a 150 ml bottle for her particular health. It was a beverage product, but a health product. Apparently, the producer in China was giving a bit of difficult time. Got the conversation going with a Calcutta-based manufacturer. Everything went well until the last minute. She said something I told her not to say. She said, I hope you can supply 8 million bottles. So the guy on the other side in Calcutta said, fine. 8 million bottles per day or per week? She said, no, per annum. So he just smiled on the camera and he said, ma'am, by the time you finished asking that question, I've done 10 million. I do 100 million bottles per month. So the poor thing, she almost fell off the chair. She didn't realize India is so big in its manufacturing capacity. But coming back, there is a potential for the massive renewable energy. I think someone touched upon it, where EV batteries are going to be playing an important role. Critical minerals, there's a lot of supply chain that's possible from Australia, not just Australia. Actually, I'm making this presentation to all of you from Papua New Guinea, where also I'm doing a bit of work. And Papua New Guinea is growing importance in the geopolitical space. In fact, in 2023, Prime Minister Modi had come here for the Forum of India-Pacific Island Cooperation. And there is a lot of initiatives to be undertaken between India and Papua New Guinea also. So in the interest of time, I'll try and wrap it up quickly. And since we are talking of the maritime domain, I thought I'll put out what the National Maritime Foundation people say. Shanna Varuna, may the gods of the oceans be auspicious unto our bilateral trade. The photo of the ship is INS Kadmat, which was here a few weeks ago. And the symbolic of that is INS Kadmat was leading the fleet review of Papua New Guinea with the other ships from France and Australia in it. So India's positioning in the geopolitical space is increasing. There's huge potential for trade. So I'll leave it at that and hand it over back to you, Payal.
Thank you so much, sir. Talking about very unique sectors such as defense sector, space, missiles, and then talking about karma to add value. The example of Samudra Manthan was so aptly put up. You are a real multifaceted personality. Just as we have an Indian melody, Shankar Mahadevan, similarly, you have been a melody to the professional ears today. The session had been a great value addition to all of us here. Uh, if you are there up to the end of C.A. Srinivasan sir's session, we would take up the questions after that, or else I would like to put up the question now, as you prefer.
No, I'll definitely hang around. I got enough time to hear what Srini has to say too.
Okay, that's really great for you, sir. C.A. Srinivasan, a seasoned business leader with over 30 years of senior management and finance experience across sectors, including retail, financial services, and not-for-profit organizations. A fellow of CPA Australia and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Srini currently leads Sentinel Consulting as its CEO and director, and has previously served as CEO of the jewelry group Zamels and Mazurkils and global business controller at QBE Insurance. A passionate advocate of good governance and Australia-India business relations, Srini actively contributes to community organizations and mentors senior professionals through his leadership and coaching engagements. Thank you so much for your presence over here, and we would like to continue with your deliberation. Over to you, C.A. Srini, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's almost bedtime here in Melbourne, so but I'll keep it sweet. Being the final speaker is a bit like being a dessert. Hopefully, it is sweet. Hopefully, it's short, and ideally leave you all smiling at the end of the presentation. So I'll just share the presentation first now. Just 1 second. All right. So I hope you can see the presentation. I'll just go to the beginning. I'm going to concentrate more on the professionals movement than on the business side, because people have talked about right from my friend Dale Pinto to Shankar. Everyone has spoken about the business part of it, so I'll slightly touch the business, but I'll concentrate more on the professional side with the movement of the professionals there. So, people have told about it. They're one of the fastest growing hubs in Indo-Pacific, stable economy, and a very strong relationship with ECTA, and skill migration pathways. And the aim is to explore the pathways for Indian professionals for business emerging in Australia. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on. Why is Australia? So a lot of people ask me. I did a presentation at the World Forum recently in New Delhi in January, and a lot of people asking why is Australia. So I keep saying that Australia had a sort of terrific growth, uninterrupted growth. They're now one of the not the largest, but one of the largest in the top 12. Gateway to the Asia Pacific, and the skill migration policy, welcoming the global talent there. And the MRA between the ICAI and CPA Australia and CANZ. So that sort of paves the way for the professionals, particularly Indian chartered accountants, to look for opportunities in Australia. The mutual recognition agreement. Actually, I was involved in the mutual recognition agreement from a CPA point of view, as well as from the CA point of view, in 2008, and so it's a brilliant move for the two institutes to come together. And the skill migration pathways. People talked about the point-based visas and sponsorships and things like that. And networking, professional network is extremely important, whether it's an ICA Australian chapter or a CPA ICA group. Here we have it in Melbourne, Australian Business Council. There are Indo-Australian chambers and everything there. And there is also a startup and entrepreneurial pathways. There are a lot of grants given by Austrade, which is Australian Trade Investment Department. So they provide a lot of grants for the export grants and as well as the incoming grants there. And there are a lot of research and collaborations happening there. I'm an alumni of Deakin University. They're one of the biggest, one of the first university to be in India. And they've now opened in Gift City also. So there's a lot of relationship between the Australian and Indian academic things. In terms of the sectors, what a professional can work, an accounting professional can work in Australia is there are about 6 sectors here. One is the public service or not-for-profit, which is the 3 levels of the government here. Then we have public practice, just like in India. Then we have corporate sector as well as a small and medium sector. The corporate sector is generally regarded as anything more than 15 million turnover, and the small and medium sectors are 20 to 50 and less than 10 is a small sector. Then we have shared services operations here and outsourcing and advisory services. There are about 6 areas that technically a accounting professional from India can work in Australia, provided they get the recognition, the mutual agreement between the CPA and the ICA, as well as CPA and the CNZ there. Just talking about the career trends in 2025. So hyper flexible is a new hybrid. So basically, in Australia, the professionals looking for just not allowing the employees to work from home. That's not enough to attract the candidates. So you need something more than the flexible workplaces. This includes regional remote working, and even some organizations allow for 4-day working at full pay. So we have seen the pilot projects of few organizations, and so you have to provide real flexibility for the professionals working here. Career lattice and not a career ladder. The concept of career ladder is almost dead there. So professionals now climb a career lattice that is stepping sideways or changing industries or taking on secondments roles and to become, and these always become the norm now, rather than sort of growing up the ladder. So that's almost dead now. Mid-tier opportunities there. So we call it as a Goldilocks employers. Traditionally, it was large against small, but there are a lot of mid-tier employers becoming more popular because they offer the best of both worlds. So a lot of professionals choose the mid-tier firms here. Paying it forward, many employees now want their work to have a meaning beyond earning a dollar. More than in a recent survey, more than half the millennials and Gen Zs, and more than a third of the baby boomers would not accept a job that does not align with their views on social and environmental issues. So it's just not. I think it's only about 40% look for remuneration and job satisfaction. All others look for what are the other issues the company is looking at in terms of social and environmental issues there. So as I said, just so 40% of the people have quit their job in recent times because it did not tie up with their personal life. So that's how professionals look forward to the working atmosphere in Australia. And the last is the CFOs as the next CEO. CFOs are very valued for the technical expertise and the problem-solving skills too. And more and more CFOs are stepping into the role of the top position as a CEO in recent years. The one famous example is Qantas. The Qantas CFO has become the CEO now, and that's just one thing, but there are several other organizations who prefer the CFO to be the CEO there. In terms of the skill sets that are demand for professionals here is the soft skills. The improved soft skills is extremely important because the technical and transactional are all automated now. So what people are looking for here are business analytics and finance business partners there. And basically, they expect the professional to ability to manage and communicate their needs and processes and talk to other departments mainly there. Commercial management, it is just not just enough to look at producing the profit and loss account and balance sheet. What they are looking for is the finance people to improve the business processes to drive efficiencies as well as the profit. So transformation projects are in huge demand now. Is a sort of increasingly sought after skill set in Australia. Business partnering, wider understanding of the business environment is necessary, and potential opportunities and strategic relationships need to be built by this professional rather than sort of coming and working and then finishing the month end and then going there. Embracing change, be ready to try new approaches, and they need to be adapted to the new technology and seek ways to improve is a sort of essential mindset looked upon by the professionals there. Communication, interpersonal skills, highly valued. That most important. In effect, that we think that's only about 40% of the people are selected based on qualification and experience. About 60% it's on the communication and interpersonal skills. And so it is just that it's not what you know. It is how you convey is most important than what you know there. The remuneration, the accountants, there's sort of a skill shortage, which was suggested by the previous speaker. And so almost about 90% of the employers consider increasing their salaries at the next review, according to one of the survey recently done. And also 96% of the employers are ready to lift the wages, and out of which 45% are prepared to increase the wages by more than 6% there. And so, many employers are placing a high emphasis. The employees are placing high emphasis on job security, but remuneration is keeping up with that pace there. There are a lot of synergies there, which other speakers mentioned there. ECTA has boosted the exports with almost about 95% of the tariff-free access there. Investment, the room to grow, the IT, the pharma, the diamond jewelry, the service firms. I was leading one of the organization, an Indian organization, which invested in a retail diamond in Australia. And to find that there are more and more Indian people in the retail industry coming to Australia now. So it is not the traditional areas of software. So people are moving into various other areas also there. And 1 million diaspora, the Professor Dale Pinto mentioned there. So people to people is a strong cultural, professional presence here. And obviously the democracy, rule of law, transparency, governance. And last but not the least, the cricket is some of the shared values there. So these are the companies, the case studies of the success stories in Australia. And the Australian universities are there. And then, and also the professionals, the ICAI members who has come here under the MRA and done the CPA or CANS. They have been very senior leadership roles and finance roles here. So it is a sort of great opportunity lying there. So what are the challenges to navigate here? So Australia is quite a highly competitive professional landscape there. And generally the employer looks for local qualification and experience. They prefer that. And there are sort of different cities here. It's a sort of question of where you want to live. The cost of living is high in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, and whereas the opportunities are more in these states. So you have to sort of balance between the cost of living and the opportunities if you're looking for work here. And significant cultural adaptation is important. Australia has got its own mindset in terms of people coming here and doing things here. And you have the Aussie rules football here. You have the rugby here, particularly in Melbourne. if you're not familiar with the Aussie rules football, forget about getting a promotion or increments or anything like that, because that's how the culturally the country, the city is there. Networking, most important is networking. Without networking, it is impossible to go up the ladder in Australia. About 80% of the jobs or by networking. Only 20% of the jobs are through advertisements and stuff like that. So networking is extremely important. There is great opportunity for networking in terms of various seminars and conferences and other stuff. And obviously regulation compliance is there and licensing differences are there compared to India. So that's a sort of a challenge to navigate there. And in terms of strategies you want to adopt, if you want as a professional want to move to Australia, is obviously you have to leverage the ICAI, ICP Australia CAN's pathway for recognition. So that sort of gives you a tick for your qualification wise. And networking, you have to build significant network, just not with you have the ICAI chapters in each city there. Then there are a lot of professional events conducted by CPA here, and so you can sort of involve yourself in the professional events there. And upskilling, very, very important, irrespective of what your background in India is. You have to upskill in the emerging areas, whether it's ESG or digital finance, risk management, data analytics, AI, you can mention it. So that's sort of very important, that, because that's what going to differentiate you from with the other professional person looking for a job here. And engage in India-Australia partnership. So there are a lot of opportunity also for I know one organization in Melbourne, which there are about 45 people there. All the 45 people are in Indian origin. That CEO is an Indian origin person. So there is opportunity in that kind of situation too there. But basically, yeah, the diaspora is huge here, and the trade and startups and education, you can provide valuable knowledge to the Indian business professionals here. And you have to stay agile, being adaptive, and you have to have this global mindset to really succeed in Australia there. And in conclusion, yep, Australia is a sort of strategic opportunity hub, tremendous opportunities here. There are pathways for CAs, entrepreneurs, and professionals there, and excellent lifestyle. Somebody asked me during the World Forum, why should I do CPA in Australia, or I'm going to do CPA in America? So I said, yep, you can do it in America. There's tremendous opportunities in America. Yep, Australia's opportunity is less because we have only about 27 million people. But if you want opportunities as well as lifestyle, you prefer Australia. So that's what I mentioned to him. And excellent school and university education. So if you want your family to come up here and then do not only for your professional opportunities here, it's a great place to bring your kids in the schools and university education. Huge multicultural population. You have about people from about 140 countries here in Australia. So, and as I said, the Indians population is growing here. And deepening Indian-Australian ties. Yeah, there's tremendous opportunities opening because of this deepening Indian-Australian ties. It is a thing that Australia has to look upon India now. That's because China is not stable and the US is having problems. So they're sort of trying to sort of widen their thing and look at India very deeply here. So, and obviously, Australia is a great sports destination. So if you're interested in sports, I came to Australia purely because of cricket. Like, you know, so if you're interested in sports, there's nothing to beat Australia in that. So particularly cricket there. I'll end up with that, and then I'll provide opportunity for any questions and answers.
Thank you so much, sir. Touching upon flexible career or hybrid career, working atmosphere, the unique blend of CFO to CEO, soft skill demands, and then concluding with the entire summary. Thank you so much for being with us and showing us the pathway to Australian businesses. So the first question is to Mahadevan, sir. What are the practical routes for Indian companies to enter the Australian mineral sector, be it equity participation or take agreements or technology partnerships?
Wow, that's going to be a pretty interesting challenge. But I'll give you an example. In 2011, sorry, I don't know what's 17. In 2011, Adani Group set up base in Queensland. They wanted to get into the coal mining sector. It dragged on for 10 years. They were pushed around, shoved around, the Greens, everybody pretty much tortured them. But they persevered and they got their license. And today they are one of the big exporters of coal mining. I'm giving you that as an example because that became a benchmark for many other Indian mining companies. So there is the Indian government-owned entity called KABIL, K-A-B-I-L. KABIL is now in conversation with Australian counterpart, and they are looking at various mining sector opportunities. In terms of pathways, obviously, I would suggest the mining companies, they have their own ecosystem. They talk to each other pretty well. In the past couple of days, many would have seen the news that the massive Grasberg mine in Indonesia, there has been some landslides out there and the price of copper has started shooting through the roof because Grasberg is the second or third largest copper producing mine in the world. So from India's perspective, I think Hindalco used to be one of the largest copper smelters also. They had a big supply chain coming in from Western Australia. Just in the past month or maybe past couple of weeks, the largest copper deposit on the planet has been discovered. The opportunities are there. I gave you the example of the silica mine that's coming up in far north Queensland. Now, this mine is pretty much a startup mine, but the potential is that for the next 30, 40 years, they'll be producing high-grade silica. So I would suggest for the mining sector guys from India is to do a bit of due diligence. Australian mining sector is the best, if not among the top 3 best in the world. In terms of technologies, there's autonomous trucks that actually carry the load, whether it's 60-ton trucks or 100-ton trucks. It's all autonomously driven. There's artificial intelligence. There's machine learning being used. And also from India's perspective, in fact, just about 2 weeks ago, I think, our Minister of State for Skills Development, Jayant Chaudhary, was in Brisbane, and he has entered into an MOU where the Queensland and the Australian government are going to be setting up, helping India set up a center of excellence in Odisha for the mining sector. The Australian government deliberately set up a consulate in Calcutta so that Calcutta takes care of the eastern belt of the mining sector of India from Bihar and Jharkhand and all of that. So I would suggest someone go and talk to the consulate in Calcutta. They will give you some insights of what cannot be done, who are the good ones. What I also think is Indian companies like BEL and the private sector companies, there is huge potential to be manufacturing some of the equipment that's used in the mining sector. Because of the geopolitics and other plays, Australia is reducing its dependence on Chinese suppliers. In fact, India itself has been hit recently with the massive tunnel boring machines, which China has been deliberately delaying supply to India so that India cannot build those big tunnels. So the Germans have come to the help of India and they said, we'll build these things in India. So pathways are there. I would suggest just looking at first Calcutta Consulate General of Australia. There is the mining department. There's a very efficient mining department in the government of India. They can also provide some linkages. There are the business councils. I know a few guys who are dedicated, who have been spending 30 years in this, and they are not just professors, but they are sharing their knowledge and they are creating pathways, creating bridges and platforms of how mining companies can do between both countries. I hope that satisfactorily answers, but it's a billion-dollar industry, so I can't put it all together in 2 minutes.
Right. It was definitely insightful. Srini sir, a person want to ask you, do Indian CA have any opportunities from remote place in India? I mean, is there work from home possible for Australian companies or outsourcing is possible?
Generally, it's a difficult thing because people like to sort of see you in person and offer the job positions and things like that. But having said that, it depends on the skill set that person has. If the person has a skill set which is not available in Australia, yes, they would go look for the persons. About a couple of years back, I did have a project manager working from India to sort of for ERP project. So it is possible. So it depends on the skill set whether it's available here, but it's very rare to go overseas and then work remotely from overseas. Right? So I'm talking about remote from Australia within Australia here there, and then coming over for every month or every quarter or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Madhavan sir, again for you, where actual requirement or shortage Australian companies and governments are facing?
Wow. Australia is going through its own little economic challenge, I would say now. Like some of the speakers, even Srini touched upon, there is a big mismatch between demand and supply of skills and capabilities. Also, the high cost of doing business in Australia is getting accentuated. Like in my presentation, I said Australia is almost the largest, if not second largest in LNG production. But the entire east coast of Australia, where 80-90% of the population lives, electricity prices are the highest in the OECD countries. In fact, we should be having free electricity with the amount of LNG we produced. But unfortunately, it's all going. So skill sets that India has, there is massive demand. I'll give you an example of last year, May. There was this big Indian defense manufacturer who wanted to try and tip their toes into Australian defense sector, invited them, set up a meeting with the deputy prime minister, who's also the defense minister. A couple of the people came into the room. We caught up in Canberra. And while going through the presentation, suddenly I'm realizing this Rear Admiral of the Australian Army and the senior bureaucrat were not aware that India had nuclear-powered, nuclear missile-armed submarines. They were assuming that this was Russian supply. And then when they asked me, India has boomers, I said, yeah, I'll send you the Wikipedia link. There's already a couple of them in the water. India is putting out 6 of them. India is doing this indigenously. India has manufactured its own aircraft carrier, and the entire design and ecosystem is there. So first thing they said is, we need some training, because Australia is thinking of getting these AUKUS submarines, which God alone knows when it will come. And I'm giving you that as an example from the defense sector. But in the healthcare sector, a classic example is when COVID broke, the PPE sector. I remember through the think tank, I was giving some advice to the director in charge of National Disaster Management Authority. So General Atas, then while he was taking all the inputs, while I'm sitting here at 2 o'clock in the morning, locked up in the house and in a COVID thing, he said, why don't you send these things directly to me instead of the group? 1 week later, he's put me to coordinate and advise the guys in Kerala, someone in Odisha. And with all that experiences that India started ramping up capacity to produce PPE kits from a full 100% importing entity, India started becoming almost the second biggest supplier and manufacturer of PPE kits of international standards. And Australia wanted that. Australia imports about 70% of their vaccines from India, if I'm not mistaken. So there is huge potential, and it's about just marrying the right skill sets and industry sectors. So the low-hanging fruit industry sectors is what someone needs to look at. If you look at mining sector, it's going to be a bit challenging. And one last example I'll leave you with is everything has a solution. In 2016, a friend of mine said, I need about 1.5 million to be raised urgently. We are looking for an Australian submarine that was lost in World War I. I said, okay, I don't carry 1.5 million in small change, but what is it about? So he told me the whole thing. He got Admiral Peter Briggs, retired Admiral Peter Briggs, who's the chairman of that mission. I heard the thing and they said the submarine was lost in 1914 during World War I in the waters of Papua New Guinea outside Port Rabaul. I said, leave it with me. I called up a friend of mine who is an Australian who understood the waters of Papua New Guinea for 30, 40 years. He's been doing scuba diving. He understood the whole thing. 2 hours later, he said, done. Paul Allen is going to come and he's going to get his octopus yacht. I said, who's Paul Allen? He said, Bill Gates' partner, co-founder of Microsoft. He's got this big 110-meter super yacht with sonar capabilities. The super yacht came 1 year later. Everything was discovered and they found the submarine that was lost 100 years ago. So I'm possibly a proud accountant who helped find a submarine of 100 years. So I'm giving you that as an example because we Indians love to do jugaad. First question someone asks, can you find a solution? Yes, we'll create a solution. Tell us what your issue is. So the potential is there. It's a matter of just identifying where in India you can get that help and how it can be done.
That was really wonderfully put up. Srini sir, can you elaborate more about ICTA and its intricacies?
Oh, the ICTA is sort of we were waiting and waiting and waiting for ICTA for decade after decade after decade. So finally it sort of landed in 2022 there. So this is after several delegations from both sides there. ICTA sort of made a huge difference in terms of taking the tariff out. Actually, it made a huge difference for Indian companies to invest in Australia rather than the other way around. Like, so the opportunities are huge there. And in terms of the simplification of the process, also ICTA sort of do it. Like for instance, in the diamond industry. Where in the retail the margins are very thin, and thanks to ACTA, the 6% customs duty was taken off, the tariff was taken out, and straight away your margin went up by 6%. So that's a significant success for the diamond industry here. So ACTA has sort of made it there, but the issue is more the profile. The Indian profile is not as evident as in China here. So that's where the problem is. So the more delegation to and from India, and the people still think that India is only good for cricket and computers. So and that's where the problem is. So they have to sort of break that mindset. Yep, people who are in the upper echelons of the industries, they recognize the potential of India and what they can do and things like that. But if you're asking about the general mass population here, they are still very much, they don't know what India is. It's not that they have negative views of India. It's just the sort of ignorance of the Indian market here. So because India is not big in tourism, that's one of the main reasons there.
That's great.
If I can
Thank
just
you for
add
your-
quickly on what Srini said, that
Yeah,
awareness
please.
aspect is so critical, and it goes to the core of this particular session that we are doing and what CA Institute is doing. It's about creating awareness. This is Global Week. It's navigating global opportunities. It's always looked at what do I get from the rest of the developed world. It's also a return is possible. What can I deliver to the developed world? And India's got so much capabilities. I gave you that example of how guys don't know that India does its own nuclear submarines. India's got so much. India's building its own small modular reactors, the SMR, the nuclear reactors, which there's a big debate going on in Australia. And when I tell people that India is already getting there with SMR, they are like, oh, we didn't know India is so advanced in technology. At one stage, I had to tell the space guys out here, India launched one particular vehicle and 110 satellites were launched in 10 minutes. And that's a record which India still holds. So not many people in Australia, they always think NASA is the biggest. And now that's why you see a lot of bilateral ministerial visits. In fact, Rajnath Singh is going to be in Australia tomorrow, I think, and 9th, 10th, there are some meetings happening in Sydney. So the issue is about creating awareness. And unless that awareness is not created, we have a CA Institute which has a massive ecosystem around the world. How do we translate this? Even when I got involved in setting up the chapter in Queensland, it was purely because there was no platform to have these conversations. Literally, I had to beg of some friends to boss, please sign this thing. We need to set up a chapter. We got 20 signatures, chapter established. Today, there's about 60, 70 people. It's running on its own. But awareness is important. And unless we don't become ambassadors of India, we are of Indian origin, We don't have to lose our loyalty to Australia, but we can become fantastic ambassadors of India and say, you know what, this is what's there in India, besides a massive market. Back to you, Payal.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Speaking about ICAI and CPA Australia, there's a question supporting that. What support a CA, a chartered accountant from India, and a CPA Australia can look from ICAI Australian chapters and CPA Australia in terms of moving to Australia, like job sponsorship or some avenues created by CPA Australia?
Srini,
As
you
I
want to
said,
take that?
yeah, I would do that. Yeah. So in terms of job prospects and things like that, this is where the issue comes. As I said before in my presentation, 80% of the jobs are through networking. So it depends on who you know, that what matters. Because most of the people have the same qualifications, same experience, and the last factor is the whom you know. So that's what matters there. So in terms of both ICA chapters and CPA, they provide huge opportunities for networking. So they have both webinars and seminars and conferences and everything. So that's the place where you meet people and then talk. So the ICI chapters, every month we have programs here. And so people come and do, and the speakers come who are sort of quite high profile speakers and things like that. So they don't do any placement, both CPA Australia and ICA chapter, they don't do any job placement as it is. But they have their own boards here. We have a WhatsApp group in Melbourne. We have about 300 people there in the WhatsApp group, and people post saying that I'm looking for an accountant or I'm looking for a finance manager or something like that. So it is through people's connection, one to one, a word of mouth. That's what happens. That will help you in securing a position here.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was a real conversation that added so much of knowledge, and I'm sure participants have benefited a lot from these sessions. And the eminent speakers, Mahadevan sir and Srini sir, we are really glad that you spared so much of time and did so much of knowledge sharing over here. Thank you. Thank you so much. The next
Thanks for that.
we have in, yeah. The next we have in line is forensic accounting and investigation has gradually become an integral part of every business these days. Yet it has its own intricacies to be deeply understood. We have with us CA Nikun Shah, a distinguished chartered accountant and forensic expert who would be taking us through the forensic accounting and investigation standards. Mr. Shah specializes in forensic audits, business analytics, and ITCG audits. A chartered accountant since 2002, he also holds qualifications, various other qualifications, such as Certified Internal Auditor, Associate Certified Fraud Examiner, etc., etc. He has been a part of several expert committees of ICAI, including the group drafting forensic accounting and investigation standards. We are really grateful to have you here, sir, and we look forward for your deliberation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Haldeep. Thank you. At the outset, I would like to express my deep and sincere gratitude to ICAI in general and the WTO Directorate in particular for having me here, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and present an overview on FAIS, that is Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, with all you lovely participants over here. Special thanks to Payal Jain for very kind words of introduction. At the same time, Payal ji, I want to express a slight grudge because you left out to say something very important that I had mentioned in my profile, but still it got missed out. You missed out to tell this other gathering over here that I was also the captain of my cricket team in class 6. So this may please be noted.
Oh, I am really so sorry about that. But it's wonderful to have a cricketer on board. A cricketer has so many strategic things that can be applied to profession.
Of course, on the lighter vein, but thank you, Payalji, once again for very kind words of introduction. forensic accounting and investigation standards. And as Palji said, that a very important area of practice has been forensic accounting and fraud investigations since now past over at least a decade. Before a decade, when we really started, when we really started seeing enthusiasm of professional community in this area of practice, we could have said that this is an unconventional area of practice, a new area of practice. But as of today, Payalji, let me tell you that this is no more any unconventional area. It's a very well established, it's a very well known area of practice, in spite of which we don't see many professionals coming forward and taking up this area of practice exclusively for professional work. So they may be doing their audits, they may be doing their tax, and once in a while they do forensic engagements, forensic accounting or fraud investigation engagements. My first message to all my fellow brothers and sisters over here is that this is both, number one, an extremely challenging area of practice, which means that it shall give you professional satisfaction at the end of the day for applying an opportunity to apply your knowledge, to apply your minds, and do some work which is recognized not only by your client but by the society at large. So in that way, it's a very fulfilling area of practice, number one. And number two, very, very important or equally important, and that is, it's a rewarding area as well. So please don't stay far from it, don't stay away from it. Embrace this area of practice to be able to deliver quality engagements. All professionals who want to practice in this area or who are practicing in this area must have two very, very important components. Number one, the right knowledge, and number two, the right tools. So with right knowledge and right tools, you are equipped enough to start your practice in forensic accounting and fraud investigations. Knowledge part, and this is where the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, our alma mater, has done some path-breaking work. I'm so proud and at the same time humbled to share with all fellow participants over here that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has been the first and the only institute across globe to come up with standards on forensic accounting and fraud investigations. No institute in the entire world, I don't want to name some well-established institutes, but not even the so-called well-established institutes, nor any other large body of chartered accountants has been able to come up with standards that guide their professionals on forensic accounting and fraud investigations. The ICAI and the Institute of Chartered Accountants has been the first and the only institute globally. What is FAIS, or Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standard? See friends, before going into what is FAIS, let us first understand the significance of a standard. Standards are mandatory. What does this mean? Any professional who discharges a professional engagement in the field of forensic accounting or fraud investigations must comply with these standards. Must comply. If we say that from, and Paji, if I can share my screen over here.
You can. You can, sir, definitely.
I can. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So effective from 1st July 2023, that is at least now over 2 years, these standards are mandatory. Two questions. Mandatory for whom? Number one. And number two, that if these standards are mandatory, is this good news for those people on whom this is mandatory, or is it bad news? So if there is a standard which guides a professional in an area of practice, my question to all my fellow participants over here is this good news or bad news for us? We have one more standard. Now we are required to follow that as well. Okay, is maybe apparently bad news, which means that if we don't follow this standard, then we may be charged of professional negligence or professional neglect. That this professional has not discharged his professional onus is apparently a bad news. However, when you think deeply, you realize that all standards, including FAIS, is like a double-edged sword. The inner edge cuts the professional. That is, it will go against you only. That is, if you don't follow it, then you have as good as committed a crime. But the outer edge of this sword really protects you. What does this mean? It means that if you are able to actively show to the stakeholders, including the authorities before whom you present your report, that you have complied, you as a professional have complied with what all has been stated in the standards, it also means that if there is anything amiss in the report, or even if the decision goes against your view or your facts that you have stated in the report, even if the decision goes there, you are absolved from any professional negligence. You can say, I have performed my duties to the best of my abilities as prescribed by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in or under forensic accounting and investigation standards. This is the outer edge of the sword which really protects the professional. I believe that being in this area for so many long years, since July 2003, whatever reports I have been giving, I have felt much safer giving those reports. Why? Because before issuing the reports, I ensure that I follow the instructions, the guidelines, the benchmarks that are given in these standards in both letter and spirit. So this is the outer edge I'm talking about, Payalji. Very, very important for all professionals, and I would want to make an appeal from this stage that everybody, every professional over here must, at the next opportunity that they get this little red book, whether you are practicing right now or you plan to practice in this area. Get this little red book titled Compendium of Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, and don't just keep it in your library, but start reading it. In case you need explanations, you need guidance, definitely professionals are and fellow professionals are definitely reachable, and especially through the platform of Institute, you can connect and you can seek guidance, but let the outer edge of the sword work for you, and that is follow the standards so that you are protected whenever you are issuing the report. Number one. Number two, another very important aspect about FAIS is, suppose there is a report that is tabled before the competent authority. Maybe it's a judicial authority or a regulatory authority. A judicial authority, any court. A regulatory authority, say SEBI or RBI. When a report is tabled before it, now that FAIS is compulsory, is mandatory since 1st July 2023, a question must be asked that the report which is tabled, does it say that it has complied with FAIS? Wow. Now this is also a very, very important point. Payalji, you may not believe, but these days we are getting engagements where a forensic report has been tabled and the views, the facts in those reports may be going against a particular person, and the competent authority or the regulatory authority asks us to first give a view whether the report that is tabled has followed FAIS or not. Wow. Now this is some quality work. Because the courts, the regulatory authorities want to trust, want to believe, want to repose their confidence on reports that state clearly and expressly that FAIS is followed in the engagement that is conducted, and thus this report complies with all necessary relevant forensic accounting and investigation standards. Which means next time when you write a report and on the first page it says that as a professional you have complied with FAIS, wow, it will inspire super confidence before the adjudicating authority, the regulatory authority, or the judicial authority. So go ahead, follow this. Of course, just some random thoughts that really make forensic accounting and investigation standards. It shall be the duty of the professional to ensure that they comply with the standards. Okay. So, Payalji, your very, very interesting aspect about FAIS and to whom it is applicable. That is the first point that I was stating. Okay, FAIS is mandatory, but mandatory for whom? Is it mandatory only for the members of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India? No. Let us look at what the preface at para 5.2 of FAIS states. The preface states that while carrying out any FAIS, it shall be the duty of the professional. It shall be the duty. First point, it shall be the duty of the professional to ensure that they comply with the standards. The very next question is, who is a professional? Of course, who is a professional? If you want to converse with me, define your terms. Let us look at whether FAIS defines who is a professional. So yes, in the framework governing forensic accounting at para 3.1, the professional is defined. Let us look at what the professional is. A professionally qualified accountant carrying membership of a professional body such as ICAI. Wow. Which means even if you are a cost accountant, You are a professionally qualified accountant? Yes. Are you carrying membership of a professional body? Yes. And if you are undertaking a forensic accounting and investigation assignment, then FAIS is mandatory for you. Super. We have seen in the practical world, Payalji, that several non-CA firms are also conducting forensic accounting engagements. That field is not restricted only to practicing firms. But the point is, who is signing it? Is the person signing that report carrying membership of any professionally qualified, of a professional body such as the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India? Is he a professionally qualified accountant? Most of the times, Payalji, he or she is such a person. Why? Because the person signing the report must first of all demonstrate credibility. And a forensic accounting report will demonstrate credibility provided it is signed by a professional. Of course, if an engineer signs that report, a forensic accounting report, well, see, we smile, we laugh because we understand. If a dentist signs that report, sir, of course, a dentist or engineer is not signing such reports. These reports, even if conducted by a private limited company or a consulting firm or a LLP or a LLC, are actually signed by professionally qualified accountants. Sir, of which institute? Any institute. And they become professionals under this particular standard. Excellent. Now see, this is where institute has actually bold a perfect delivery. That we are covering for the first time, not only practicing chartered accountants within our ambit, we are saying that, hello, these standards that we have come up with are applicable to one and all. Come one, come all. Super. Which means my brothers and sisters in Australia, my brothers and sisters in Middle East. I'm specifically referring to these countries because as I've been told that this program is being broadcasted, telecasted, and shall be of relevance to all professions. So whether they're members of institute there or in India, if they follow this little red book and on their report they say that yes, we have followed this. Wow. Excellent. As against this, what does CFE code say? We can read it at some time. So, Payalji, in the available time that I've been allotted, another 5 to 7 minutes, these are the core things, Payalji, that I want to share with my professional brothers and sisters over here. Once they are aware of these things, then definitely we can go to each specific standard and we can understand what those standards say. But the first thing that everybody must get clear is that it is mandatory for whom and how it inspires confidence and elevates credibility of the professional work that we have done. Payalji, I want to take a pause over here. I want to ask you that if there are any questions that have come up from any of the participants, I'll be happy to take them, or I can maybe go ahead.
Yeah, we do have questions, sir. I guess you can continue for next 5 minutes and we'll take all the questions together.
Super. Thank you, Payalji. So just I'm curious to know how many people are watching this right now, attending this.
Sir, it's almost around 500.
Oh, wow. Super. The kudos goes to ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and all you people who are on the ground doing all this spade work. We only come at the appointed time, and that also after Gunjanji calls up that, sir, now please log in. But of course, always happy to be here, to be sharing knowledge. The credit goes to you people for getting this with so many people in such knowledge sharing sessions. Third important thing that I would want to talk about FAIS is this. FAIS specifically provides in a particular standard that the professional engaged in this, it is in the reporting standard, must not give an opinion on the guilt or innocence of any person. I reiterate, the standard in the reporting, in one of the reporting standards, very, very specifically mentions that the professional doing this forensic accounting or investigation work must not give an opinion on the guilt or innocence of any person or persons. Super. Now, why is this relevant and why am I giving so much emphasis on this reporting requirement? So many banks in India who take up matters to the court, especially related to diversion of funds, where the banks allege that the accounts have turned NPA not because of a business misfortune, but because the borrower intentionally diverted the funds to activities other than for which it has the funds were availed, the funds were disbursed. When the matter reaches the court wants to understand whether diversion of funds really happened or not. A forensic accountant is brought in, who most importantly digs up evidences, compiles them, and analyzes to give his fact finding on diversion of funds. However, when the bank selects that particular organization or a chartered accountant for this forensic work, then they say that you must write in the report whether the borrower is guilty or not. So much immense pressure is put on the investigating people that you must clearly say in the report whether the person is guilty or not guilty. Hey, I'm humbled to share this, Payalji, with all my fellow brothers and sisters over here, that I was also one of the contributors to FAIS, and these texts have been written by our committee. So when we all, by our expert group, so when we all gathered for deliberations, so many practitioners brought this point to the table, on the table, that practicing firms who are engaged by banks are coerced to state with clarity whether guilty or not. Whether guilty or not. Friends, let us understand one thing very, very clearly. A person, whether they is guilty or not, the decision rests with the judicial authority. We should not undertake role of judges. Let the judges decide. What role are we playing? We are explaining what really happened basis the evidence that we dig out. So what is our role? Our role is twofold. Number one, uncover evidences. Most important. I must uncover evidences, and based on that evidences, I must analyze them. This is my analysis. I must report what actually happened. The funds from this account were taken into this account. From there, where were it used? Repayment schedules, whether they were followed or not. The working of interest was in accordance with the agreement or not. We are accountants. We are engaged to do a forensic accounting work, not to give decision. Let the decision making be the prerogative of the judicial authority. Because we were facing all these problems and in all our deliberations, we came to a consensus that let the standard itself say, so that members are protected. Next time a client comes to you and he tells you that, Nikunj, I want you to state in the report who is guilty. I can show him the relevant page and I can say, my institute does not permit me to say this. And if you are forcing me to say this, let us go to the institute to seek a clarification. So we will come to you people, to the Central Council members. So this is where, very, very important professional accounting skills. 100 standards, nature of engagement, fraud risk, laws and regulations, applying hypothesis are some of the forensic accounting standards. Fraud risk, law regulations. Now this would come, of course, at a little later stage, Payalji, when we first start understanding the framework, when we deep dive into the number of standards, how they are arranged, so on and so forth. But I believe today my role was to make familiar, give an overview about the applicability of the standard, how this would work both against and for a professional, on whom it would be applicable, and some of the salient features. This is where I would now want to take rest, give some rest also to the participants, and take questions if any. I hope I've done the job I was allotted.
That was wonderful, sir. You did a justified job, definitely. So the first question is, can you please name the red book?
Okay. This, yes. This red book is Compendium of Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards. Compendium of Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has stopped selling books over the counter. This means that simply log on to the website, type the name of this book and say order copies 10 and it will be delivered to your doorstep. Of course, there is one more step. Swipe your credit card, please.
Right.
No, I'm just trying to make some for our institute, Payalji.
Definitely. Another one is, are there any specifications where FAIS has to be applied, such as AS and Ind AS has?
Okay. So, two main kinds of engagements the FAIS has to be applied: forensic accounting and investigations. And both these have been very clearly explained. So, forensic accounting has been explained here, gathering and evaluation of evidence by a professional, once again. Now we know who is the professional, right? So now all this will start making sense. I'm referring to my screen, sir. I hope that screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So that is forensic accounting. In such engagements, whether those accounts were done on Ind AS or Indian GAAP, it doesn't really matter. Okay. And number two, it will be applicable to investigation. So these two kinds of engagements it will be applicable to. Investigation is systematic and critical examination of facts, records and documents for specified purposes. So very broad definition we have here, and forensic accounting will be applicable to that, to such engagements.
Okay, that's great. Right knowledge and right tools, the biggest ingredient for any perfect practice. So rightly said. Wow, that was really heart-throbbing session today with a tinge of light humors put up so beautifully by you. Thank you so much, CA Nikunj Shah, sir. I, CA Payal Jain, would like to take a moment to show my gratitude to ICAI for curating this most trending professional opportunity for the members, the convener and the deputy convener, to the directorate, all the dignitaries present and the speakers to spare their valuable time for the benefit of the fraternity. And of course, not to forget the ICAI officials for working day in, day out for the success of the webinar. I must mention here, Nikunj sir, that this is the last session and the last day of this ICAI Global Week.
Oh.
And you have in cricket terms, if I may justify, I don't know, that you have put up that last six, which was needed the most. So that was a wonderful session by you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Palji, one last thing that I would like to share, Palji. You know, with all my professional brothers and sisters around, all of us are at such stage in life where there can neither be teacher nor be taught. You know, between us, a teacher-student relationship doesn't really exist. We can only endeavor to share our experiences. And if today, by me sharing my experiences has benefited the participants even to the extent of 20% of what they already knew, then I will consider all my efforts a grand success. I do look forward to connecting with all you lovely people sometime next, but sometime soon. Until then, khush rahein, apna khayal rakhein. Do have a very pleasant evening ahead. Greetings of the auspicious day of Sharad Purnima today to all of you. Thank you and Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We shall sign out now. Thank you.